Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio host, and nationally recognized safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Join us each week as we discuss the best and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. Follow Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.
Hey everybody, it is your good friend, the Safety Doc, from down here in the Safety Doc North Star recording studio, where we are below ground, which is a good thing right now because we do have severe storms entering the area. So yes, it was 85 degrees and increasing humidity, very strong winds today. And we have a line of storms entering our area, more to the north of us. Kind of the tornado watch-ish stuff. I think just heavy rain and winds and stuff like that here. But anyway, nothing to worry about down here in the North Star recording studio. I did take the flag down from in front of our house because it was a couple of years ago. High winds and snapped the flagpole and it's off of the front of the house, stuff like that. So when I know there's going to be high winds, I take it and put it inside the garage. But otherwise, we should be okay. I think tomorrow it's going to be a repeat. Same thing, high humidity. Now, this is really quirky because last week this time it was like 40 degrees. It was actually 40 degrees, and we hadn't been to 80. Today was 85. So suddenly we hit this warm weather trend, and we're going to be around, let's 85 to 90 for the next 4 days, and we'll kind of drop back to the upper 60s. So I need to get out biking. I don't think I'll do it tomorrow because it's going to be humid and possible thunderstorms throughout the day. So I don't want to be out and dealing with that. So it'll probably be Wednesday I'll be out biking. But yeah, I did wash both of the vehicles today, and now that we have the SUV, it's a little harder to. I'm tall, but I'm not that tall to like be able to get the top of it really well, but it was nice. It was nice to have the warm weather. It's just weird how fast it goes. It doesn't typically do this, but it literally went from 40s, which it was all of April, right? And now 85 and humid. So let's give a shout out here. We have Andrew who's saying late. So yeah, I couldn't get my monitoring screen to the appropriate size. So I had to fiddle around with it, and I got it. Saltude, and here we go. Hey, buddy. Bacon is saying, evening, you degenerates. So it's All Pro Lemon Town with his bike, and I do have my bike ready to go. And I think Wednesday will be my first outing of 2022. Should be about 88 degrees here on Wednesday. So again, like a week ago, it was like 40. but yeah. So I think I haven't really checked my biking. That won't be a long trek. I mean, now I have to condition myself to get back into biking shape. So that'll probably be like 40 miles. But I've got to stock up again on kind of what I take for my bike stuff. But yeah, so kind of an update. We are in an area which is going to get severe weather sometime in the next couple hours. So there's this long squall line throughout our edge of our state, which is developed. And anyway, that is going to be working its way through here. So on radar, like it's a certain amount of time, right? And it'll be here. I don't think it's going to be anything like real significant. But the northern part of our state is going to get hammered pretty well. What kind of bike do I have? Originally it was a truck, I think 720, which I bought back in 2012 maybe, but I mean, it's been rebuilt so many times. Probably the only thing that's original yet would be the frame and literally the seat. I think that's the only parts of the bike that haven't been replaced or rebuilt. I had wheels, handmade, right? Wheels. There's a process for that. That took a couple days for those to be made. a couple years ago, and then just everything else after I had a pretty big accident with the bike, did a lot of damage. And at that time, I don't know, I could have just replaced, I guess, the bike, but I replaced the components. So, but it's good. It's this hybrid, it's kind of a mutt, right? My bike is also for it is for distance. It's not for speed. So I have to go through like my bag. I have a huge kind of cargo bag. And I need to go through and make sure everything is all current and ready to go. But yeah, I don't go for speed. I go for distance. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of pictures I take of my bike. Let me see if I can find one here. It's our good friend Zippy. Here he is. I live again. Zippy. Zippy, you got to get working on that review. You got to be number 11, my good friend. Andrew said, I ignore every severe weather alert because big weather has cried wolf too. Yeah, kind of here too. Somebody asked me today, I was hanging out after I did yard work in the morning, and I went to the small engines place because my had my mower serviced, and then when they returned it, they didn't return the side chute, so to discharge the grass. So I mowed, and I'm like, whoa, like I'm missing. So it's okay because I was bagging anyway the first time to get any debris off of the yard. But then I went there today, and it was kind of funny because they pulled out 3 chutes, and they said, "Are any of these it?" And I said, "I don't know." I had my owner's manual. I mean, the mower is like 12, 15 years old, and I bought it from there. So they matched up the part numbers, and they said, "No, none of these are it." And they said, "We'll just order one for you. It'll be here in a couple of days." So not a big deal, but they said, "Yeah, when you send it down here next time, don't, if it's a removable part, like don't send it with that, because we tend to take those off, and then with all the volume in the shop, sometimes they don't always get returned. Not a big, it's like a $12 part, and they're paying for it. So it's just a plastic chute that you just slip in for kick the grass out the side of the mower. But anyway, I mowed. I think I mowed yesterday, and bagged, and the yard looks good. So I put down 16 bags of mulch today, and then I will I spray that. So I mix up mulch dye in a big sprayer, right, pressurized sprayer, and then I touch all of that up. Looks really good, but I won't do that until closer to Memorial Day. I do it a couple times in the summer. Just it really makes things look nice. But I don't know. The older I get, like yesterday, I turned 50 and a half. I just do not have a thrill for yard work. So, and we have a lot of sticks that fall down, because of the trees and stuff like that. So like just picking up the stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. Leave a bad Yelp review. What is this? Leave a for where? Oh no, Andrew. No, actually, the small engines place has been awesome. It's a family-owned business. They've been here forever. They've serviced, like, I bought everything from them. My original 4-stroke Briggs and Stratton weed whacker I bought there 20 years ago, and 4-strokes. That thing is a monster, right? You cut down a tree with that. I mean, it's probably like 60, 70 pounds. I mean, it's just insane, but I love it. And they don't make anything like it anymore. And they service that thing too. And I bought a snowblower there, bought a leaf vac. They've been great. It was just one of those quirky things where it got separated out. And of course, they're like, yeah, we'll order the part and it'll be here in a few days. So they're really cool about it. Like, again, it's a $12. And honestly, like those things, it's amazing that it lasted this long anyway. That little, the chute on the side. So, but yeah, they're really cool. So one time, like in winter, a couple of years ago, I had something going wrong with the carburetor in my snowblower, and like in 48 hours, they had it back to me. I think they rebuilt the carb on it. So, but it's Toy Town. Hey, Toy Town. Hey, buddy. Welcome. So let me see if I can. Well, I mean, I can. I just got to find it here. Bring up a thing. I'm hungry for tacos, which I'm not going to be able to fulfill that tonight. But all right, So I've got a funny story to share here with our good friend Aaron Clary. Just a second, but about our good friend Aaron Clary. Drive photos, biking. No, not that one. I don't know. Here, let's try this one. All right. I don't know. This might have been late season. Every time I bike, I try to take a, what in the world? Try to take a picture. Hang with me here. I don't know what in the world. I have some big news to share also, which we'll get to here in a second. So, here's a picture I took while biking, but there's not a picture of my bike. That's weird. I usually put the bike in the background. So anyway, let me show you guys this. So this is the share screen. Hang on. So that's my maple tree, which I planted like 20 years ago, and so I put that ring in myself. So it's just scallop stones, right? But so I put in the new mulch today. Now this picture is from last year, but this is what it will look like when I spray it down with mulch dye. So it really is cool. It has a really nice effect to it. And yeah, so I remember like 20 years ago bringing this thing was small. I brought it home in the back of my car. And since it's grown, it's been a really nice tree. And actually, since we had some trees trimmed over here, like it grows, it's even gotten taller and fills out really nice in summer. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So what I do is I have a mulch dye, and then I have a backpack sprayer, and then I mix everything up, and I spray this maybe like 3-4 times a year. And this I must have taken this picture like the same day that I sprayed it. So, and it'll look like that for 3-4 weeks, until it'll start to kind of fade out a little bit, and then it's not a big deal. Just mix up some more and stuff like that. It's pretty economical, actually. I think it's about $25 a year in mulch dye to keep it. So I have this, and then I have. Let me show you the other right here. That is the fire bush. That's actually centered. It doesn't look like that in this picture, but it is centered. So that's on. And actually, I had to put this. So if we did, and at some point there's going to be sidewalk coming through here, it will clear this by about at least a foot between here and the road. So I've contemplated though, like, should I pull this out now and just plant grass there? I don't know if there's a need. I mean, for this year, I'll keep it this way, but I'm starting to question whether or not I really want this tree ring in front of here. And one of the things that's changing my thoughts on this too is that I can get a picture. I can zoom into this a little bit. So here it is. I mean, it's cool. From the road, it looks really cool. But this area back here, this is plastic molding. So it's black plastic molding. And it's edging, right? So, and we put that in 20 years ago, or I put it in. Like, this is all like new landscaping. Like when we bought the house 20 years ago, I had this diagram and I bought all of these things and stuff like that. But the squirrels have eaten away a lot of the plastic mulch. So I'm having this done with concrete curbing next month. So that's pretty cool. Like, I had the guy come out last year, and so this will actually be concrete, and it'll be stamped. It'll have a pattern on it, and it'll keep the stones back a little bit better. It's cost a lot. It's really expensive. It's really expensive to do it. Actually, he honored the price he gave me last year as the project. But once that's done, and a lot of people like tend to do them in our neighborhood in red, but I think it looks kind of crazy because like their houses aren't red, and even here like our stones and stuff are orange and brown. So I'm going to do more of an orange and brown on this, and it'll be fine, and rope it around. Um, but that's pretty cool. That's happening next month. But yeah, then I don't know if I'm going to keep this in the front yard anymore, because it was there when this thing was starting to grow, and I think like just having grass there would be a nice look. Um, so I don't know. I got to think about it a little bit, but so yeah. But anyway, let me get this one off of here. But I was going to show you guys my bike. So let's do this. Holy Lord. This is insane in the membrane. Insane, got no brain. What? All right. By the way, this was last year, but that was me. This was me at the end of today. Exactly right there. And I washed both vehicles, and I was sitting there and hanging out for a couple hours. So it's like 85 and sunny here. All right. So I got to get a picture of my bike. Why the hell is this so hard? I always take pictures of my bike. This is nuts. When did I start biking last year? Because definitely it started this. Here we go. Here we go. By God. By gum. Let's do this. All right, guys. Here we go. That's it. There it is. The old Warlock. Here's a closer up picture of the Warlock. So yeah. Carbon forks. This is 2012. So yeah, the only thing original on this bike is the frame and the seat. That's it. Everything else has been replaced. And this bag, this Topeak bag, is new from last year. They kind of fade out, but it actually, I can put a lot in that bag. So I will take the 2 water bottles. I can put a gallon of water in the bag. I got to check in. I think one of my lights puked her out last year, but I bought an extra one. Having a mirror is really a plus. Like I added that about 2 years ago. I never had a mirror before, and I use it a lot. So it is pretty cool. So these are tires from Japan. What are these Pana racers? So I have to order these. So these are good for a couple seasons. So like ones I have on now, I got last year, so they're still good. But those you have to have a pretty good lead time. All of these were hand pulled rims, and so all these spokes. I mean, this was a hand trued rim. So I don't know. The bike is maybe $1,000, which in the bike world is, it's not that expensive, right? But it's a very heavy bike, even though I guess it's a light frame, but I always pack a lot on it. So, I mean, this is full, and, I've got a lot, but I want it that way because then I'm getting fit. And it is a smooth drive. I mean, there really isn't any shudder in this. And I treat this bike really well. Like I will rip this thing down a couple times during the season, and clean it up and lubricate it and stuff like that. Like the bike shop is always like, you are one of the best for taking care of your bike. So yeah, it's ready to roll. It's ready to go. I just have to, I think Wednesday, but the thing is I'm not ready to go. I can do about 40 miles, on the first ride, kind of an easy one easing in. And so where this is about a 75-mile ride. The certain route that I take right here, which is a new route, like in the last 2 years. I've been exploring some different places to go with the bike. So, but yeah, I love it. This bike has been really awesome. I don't really have much desire to get anything different either. Like somebody was talking to me and say, "Hey, you could get like a speed bike. You could alternate." I'm like, I could, right? I could do that, but it's really, I'm just out there for nature. I'm out there for the sun, and what I'll do too is, let me throw this back on the screen. I have an I have an old Samsung S5 MP3 player, not a phone. Um, and it holds a charge really well. So I have an external speaker that I put up here, an indoor outdoor speaker. It's over in a drawer, but and the speakers charge itself. So then the MP3 player will last quite a while. And I also bring like a Jackery with me in case I need to recharge any of those things. But I can usually listen for 3 to 4 hours of podcast. So I have a speaker that I put under the netting here, and then I put the little um, S5 over here, and then download podcast. And then, I only listen on the way back. If I kind of get a little bit bored or something like that, I'll throw something in. And then, yeah, it works pretty well. It's an indoor outdoor speaker and stuff like that. It's a pretty nice setup. So yeah, anyway, yeah, this bike is it's really cool. Like all the things this bike and the places we've gone, I mean, it's really reliable too. Even when I had the accident with the bike, the fact that it was able to get me back home. So there we go. So let's go to the chat here. So good from Bacon. Sounds like a lighter version of my street bike. Built it from the frame and fork by hand. 4130 steel, bulletproof. Yeah, no kidding. Wow. I had a steel truck in college that I bought used, and it was a heavy bike. And actually, I found out it was really valuable. But I gave it to the son of a coworker. Maybe around 2012 or something, because he didn't have a bike and whatever, which is fine. Like he took care of it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that was the same time I got this bike to replace it. And that bike was a little small for me. Like this bike is just fine. Branches, what branches? This is a commercial more if I wanted to wreck the, yeah, I could. I mean, thing is like, branches dull the blade, right? So I don't want to dull the blade right away and have to deal with sharpening the blade. So that's why I spend time out there. But oh God, like it just is. I have my leaf back where suck up not the pine cones, but the cones off the spruce tree this year. Every other year, the spruce tree pukes out. The 2 spruce trees puke out a lot of cones now because they're taller, like 60 feet tall. So I had to suck up a lot of cones from the yard. But anyway, it looks good now. Looks good. I know Taco Bell's open until 1 a.m. It's close by too. So yeah, I don't know. I have to make a note here when I go to when I do shopping. Like I haven't picked up any frozen burritos, and I need to do that. Taco Bell closes at 10 in Tennessee. It's another reason not to move here. It sucks, buddy. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, Taco Bell. I don't know. I've got to try it again. Ever since they ditched the steak soft taco, kind of sad about that. This is Bacon to Andrew. Word Californians are bringing an In-N-Out franchise to Tennessee. All right, Andrew to Zippy, bro. Come on, I'm trying to stop California's New Yorkers from moving here. So, yes, I don't know, Doc. Look. It is the bike is good. I don't have anything planned for the bike and it has a really nice, oh God, I put a new computer, right? I mean, on it, I forget what I put on it because my other one puked out, but this is a nicer cat eye. I have a nicer cat eye, bigger screen on it, like easy to read. And I have a bracket, so it's out front. You can see it on the bike, like it's up here. But so how fast you're going, your revolutions per minute, how long you've been biking, and all this stuff. The only things I really care about is distance and speed. That's all. So, but yeah, that's really a nice setup. So, Pokes Bob, hey Doc. Folks, Bob, I don't know if you're going to get any storms tonight. We will. I looked at the line coming across the state. It's definitely going to hit us. Zippy is saying, "What are you going to do about the state? It's already ran by Trump." Oh my goodness! What are you guys talking about? Is it bag your first aid kit? It is not, but the first aid kit is in there. It's in one of the side bags. I don't know if it's what side it is. I also have a splint in there. So yeah, an athletic tape and the whole deal, because I learned after I had the big wipeout with this bike or the accident a few years ago, of like a splint would have really been handy like that time, and a roll of athletic tape and just the whole. So one of those sides is all first aid kit stuff. Um, so yeah, elastic bandages. I'll have to check those. They might be a couple of years old. Might have to change those out right now. And I have ice packs in there. I think I have 3 ice packs. And the reason with ice packs is not if I would wipe it out. The reason I have ice packs in there is if I would overheat. And then that I would be off to the I pull off to the side, and then you sit down and you try to lie down, I guess you can, and you put the ice packs on your neck to cool your your artery, right, to cool to cool yourself down. So I've never had that happen, but I do bike on very hot days, and I bring the ice packs, right, that are activated by smashing them together by chemical reaction. I have probably 3 ice packs in there. So, no, it's just the wheels are the same diameter. It's just an optical illusion. So the way that the picture's taken. So maybe that shows it to be a little more accurate right there. So yeah. So it is really peaceful to be out, and to have this time, right, where you're in nature. Like when I'm out biking in these areas, there are very few people out there, and it's mostly, I mean, these crop fields, and you'll see, deer and cranes, and just really nice. And everything kind of, greens up. So this is still, I guess, pretty early in the season when I had this out. So what is this? This ride was April 5th of 2021. By God, I mean, April 5th would have still had snow on the ground this year. So yeah. But there you can kind of get the side view. So yeah, just really nice. It's really nice. Everything's really good. So, Marty is saying, that's awesome. I'm scared to ride one where I live. Imagine, it all depends. Like I'm a little more hesitant this year on 2 fronts. One is wild animals, particularly dogs, and the other is just people, right? Like so I think I've got to pack in some, at least, pepper spray in case there's dogs or a dog or whatever I can't outrun, or bear spray maybe. And then I don't know what else as far as people. It's just at strange times, right? I don't know. With that said, I really haven't had any encounters, but like the dog stuff, I did have one encounter like 2 years ago where I had to like bike like crazy to outrun a dog. So yeah, the other thing is like hawks. Hawks can go after you when you're biking. I don't know if they think you're food or if you get in their territory, they swoop down, and so that gets to be kind of a dicey deal going on there. Hawks swooping down, trying to. I see a lot of eagles when I'm out biking. A lot of eagles, especially on very windy days. Eagles like just love to hang out in the wind. So. Pokes Bob says, I'm a stickler for interchangeability. That's what I noticed. Could be an angle though. So yeah, the bike is, I have a lot of parts of it. I could change out on the bike too. So I kind of want to get a drum motor for. Oh, this could be a storm watch. Let's check this out here. I think it is. No, it's not. What is it here? Hang on. All right, there we go. Something from the school. So I kind of want to get a drum motor for a bike, put it on a trike, better than the four. Yeah, I thought about electric bikes. I know my friend Aaron Clary now has an electric bike. So, but at this point, I'm not going to do that. No rain in our forecast till Friday, Doc. All right, you're all right then, buddy. To Bacon, to Zippy, figured you as more of a bike powered via pulse jet engine kind of. So did I. Bacon, a bag looks like it can hold a 12. I bet it could. Books Bob, and actually it expands. It you can unzip some things on the side, and the top will come up higher. So I've carried gallons of mixed drinks and up to 4 cans. So whoa, yeah, I'm only bringing ice water and Gatorade or Powerade with me. So Toy Town, best for dog is keyboard duster sprayed upside down. Freezes their nose, but harmless after a minute. I didn't know that. Wow. Wow, Aaron actually spent money on something. Yeah, he did. If you watch his Clary podcast, I think he was talking about it on there where he bought an electric bike. So he sent me a picture of it after he got it. So it's nice. I mean, and I think I don't know what he paid for it, but I think it was north of $1,000. You know, so yeah, our good friend kind of give him a little razzing about that there. The old guy using those electric bikes. So funny thing here with Aaron. So Aaron's a good friend of mine, and he got a hold of me last week and he said, "Hey, do you have the first set of podcasts that I ever did?" Right. And I don't know what the deal was, but Aaron, the first 25 shows he did back in like 2012 or whatever, he doesn't have those. He never had those. But after he started to do his show on a regular basis, he sold like the first 80 episodes of his show, so which was started like at episode 26 on a thumb drive for like $20 or something like that. So back in like 2015, maybe, I was listening to the Clary podcast and he said, "Hey, like contact me." And so that time he still lived in Minnesota. So, I sent the money to this PO box, and, a few weeks later, this thumb drive arrives, and it's from Aaron, and it's his first 80 podcast, 5.8 gigabytes of podcast in this regular envelope, right? That he sends for, 33 cents at the time. This thumb drive's all mangled from the machine, but it still works. So anyway, he got a hold of me. He said, "I can't find these like first 80 shows I did. Since he's moved and stuff like that." And I said, "Well, let me take a look. I'm pretty sure I have them." So I went back and I did have them saved on a hard drive. So I said, "Let me just share these with you, and I'll put them in a Dropbox file or folder. So all you have to do is just go in there and whatever." So I did it, and then he gets a hold of me and he said, "Yeah, the Dropbox thing is like too much work. Can you just send me all of the podcast on a thumb drive?" I'm like, "Well, sure, I can. I have extra thumb drives. That's really not a problem. It's like $5 to mail it." But I'm like, "They're right there. I just shared it with you. Here are all of them." And he said, "It's just going to be easier for me." So I'm like, "Not a problem." So I printed out a label on my label maker and put on the back of the thumb drive, because I'm sure he has a ton of them. Clary's original podcast. And I sent it out. And I sent it out this morning to him, from the post office. But it was just kind of funny, like, because I'm like, "Well, here they are. They're in a Dropbox. You can," and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. Can you just send them out on a thumb drive?" I'm like, "Well, sure. Yeah, I guess. Okay. Can I just drive them out to you? You're only like 11 hours away. I mean, if I kind of do a straight shot, so how about I do that?" But anyway, so yeah, I got those out to Cappy today. So I know TJ started a show, which is awesome. So I I enjoy that. And TJ is going to be a guest on here. We're going to do asynchronous. He asked to do it that way. So then of course I'll edit it and it'll be a premiere release. I don't know when we'll do that. Won't be long. So this is episode 181, by the way. We do have a topic. It's negative expectation bias when all news is bad news. And I already have the post written for this in the description. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Right. But yeah, so TJ is going to be a guest. I'll bring him back. Looking forward to that. So don't worry. This is, I carried water in a bottle bag. Plus I needed all the space in the backpack for tools. So yeah. When the bike is loaded up, it's ready to roll. The thing is, like, beef jerky was reasonable a year ago. Now, like, beef jerky is expensive, man. I keep super chatting Cappy. He hates Minnesota so much, gets him spun up every time. Best to, no kidding, Post Bob. So, yeah, he is. So I'm able to Aaron and I will have like lunch or breakfast or something, maybe like 4 times a year, because his family's still in Wisconsin. So he needs to, when he goes there, he kind of drives through my area and we'll, say, hey, are you around or something? So, but yeah. So this is Andrew to Post Bob. Yep. He can't maintain frame when doing live streams. So yeah. What is that? He can't maintain frame when doing live streams. Is that me? I'm sorry. Oh, is it Cappy? I don't know. What are you guys doing here? So, Dropbox, it's a boomer. It's yeah. I don't really use my Dropbox, but it does work well, right? If you don't have to have a Dropbox to receive a folder. So it was just kind of funny because I'm like, yeah, I found these, dude. And and he's like, oh, and then he's like, can you just send them to me? It's like saying, hey, like, do you have airplane tickets? And then, by the way, are you a pilot? Can you fly a plane? So I'm like, yeah, no, not a problem, buddy. I'm glad to do it. So but that's kind of his tech, right? So it's MK Joe. Hey, buddy. Cappy gets mad on live streams, which means his audience will see that and make him more upset. So yeah. So Cappy's a good guy. Man, I think episode 100 of his podcast, which was maybe like 2013. So going back to these original ones, and he doesn't share them anymore because he used soundtracks at the beginning, and there was some issue. He wasn't sure if he had the rights to use them. Like he did everything he needed to do, like to write the holder of the copyright or whatever, but then he made those unavailable. So like there is a specific collection, and there's other people, I guess, that have these, but he sent me that thumb drive. It was maybe like 2015, right? Like 7 years ago. And I didn't have the thumb. I do have the thumb drive, the mangled thumb drive, but I copied it over to an external hard drive, and I was able to just pull it off of there and onto a different thumb drive and send it back to him. So, but anyway, kind of crazy. Pokes Bob, you should have seen how I got him spun up to the point where donation jar saying they could get 9 pounds of food for just $1 in person. It's a diner he and Atham almost died driving to. Oh my goodness. So wow, it's Jim McIntosh. Hey Jim. So guys, I want to share something. I want you to watch something. So it's a big event for me since last show. So I'm going to share this. Is just 40 seconds long. This is big. It's big here for the doc. So here we go.
Specialty of the year is Dr. David Harrison. David is a speech-language pathologist specializing in psycholinguistics. He's the author of The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times, and has been teaching in our educational leadership program for more than 15 years. Students in his superintendent's current and legal issues course share, Dr. Harrison is helpful, organized, and empathetic, with content knowledge that is off the charts. Students in this course also share that they consult with David as they navigate especially difficult situations in their own district. Thank you for sharing your talents with our students, David, and congratulations.
Hey, Doc was Professor of the Year. So yes, May 5th, 2022, I was named Professor of the Year at the university where I've instructed since 2003. So this fall will mark 19 years. So that is a big accolade. Really appreciate the people who nominated me, faculty and students, first time I've been nominated also for that award. So that is cool. And we're also in the mix, the university and they have a new program. And there are some classes which I might be able to instruct in that, in addition to my current, the current courses I teach, which will be really cool. So, yeah. And, the thing is, like, with Professor of the Year, part of it is scholarship, right? What you've done for research or other things. In the book, Philosophy of Information, Philosophy of Information was huge. I mean, in that this was a scholarly work, right? And so that weighed into that decision also. So I kind of thought, like, if this was the year it was going to happen, or if this was the year, right? Because I don't think there's going to be a repeat of the types of things that I did coming into this year. I also took on a different class in fall, a different legal issues class, and instructed it. So, but yeah, it was really, it's an honor. I mean, I'm going to take my family to the university. It's a couple hours away from me. So, like, when I teach her on the weekends, it takes a while to get there, right? But I'm going to take them, and it's a beautiful campus, like mostly built in the 1880s, and then, updated, things like that, but really nice. And then I'm going to show them, because I have my key card, right? I can go anywhere on campus, and I'm going to show them the plaque in the main hall, which will have the little tag on it, Professor of the Year for this year. So yeah, it's a cool thing. It's a very cool thing. So today so anyway, the plaque will be up there soon in back of me. So for the Professor of the Year. So yeah, it's good. Appreciate that. So thank you. So yeah. Toy Town saying, took me a bit of time to understand Dropbox, but you're doing a huge favor. So a bit of effort. No kidding. Because he said, I can see the files. So he called me up and he's like, I can see the files, but, like, can you just email, or can you just postal mail me a thumb drive? And I'm like, well, yeah, I can do that. Sure. I mean, you're a good friend. I'm glad to do that. But, like, the files are right there. Like, they're literally right there, right? You can see all of them. Just download them and you've got them. Like, there's nothing different I'm sending you on the thumb drive. But so yeah, I did up the little mailer and went to the post office and sent it to him. And so, but it's all right. It's fine. He's a good friend. So yeah. So Toy Town, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. I would have made learn Torrance and RAR. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yay, Doc. Yeah. Well, it's a cool thing. It is a cool thing. I'm really, huzzah. Damn, Doc, you had to drive for us. When I go to the university, so when I teach on Saturdays, which isn't frequent, right? So in fall, I'm there probably 8 or 10 Saturdays. I don't know. Now, the stuff that I'm kind of entering, I'm going to be there in summer, but I just would stay there. Like, the university would just pay for me to stay at a hotel or something, but which I don't mind, right? It's right along the Mississippi River. Not a bad deal at all. And from where I'm at, I live on the interstate, right? So, like, from my door to the interstate is like 2 minutes, and then the university's off the interstate. So it's really not a bad thing to drive there, and back. And plus, I get paid mileage, right, and stuff like that. So it's not a big of a deal. I'll put a lot of miles on my vehicle, and I kind of like the drive. It's pretty scenic. It's not like real crazy traffic or anything. So, so Doc Building is, I love my wall. Yeah. So it's in back of me. It'll probably be underneath the blue record, which is back there, somewhere up there. I've got to do something with the wall. I thought about, and I've got to check this out. Like, I had some really cool graphics made for my book of having them put on kind of like wall art, right? And have them put up in back of me. I don't know what I want to do back there quite yet. So, I don't know. It's kind of good the way that it is. It's not too busy. The books are back there. So, damn it, I need coffee. I haven't had coffee for a while. I didn't have coffee because I was narrating my book, which is done. And as soon as I get all the finished files, like the edited files, I'll get that out. I've got it all ready to go on um, Find Away Voices. Everything's uploaded. The PDF companion document, everything's ready to go. I just don't have all the final files. A couple that the engineer's still working on. But I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, I couldn't drink coffee when I was narrating because it dries out your vocal cords. A 4-hour commute, brutal. But the thing is, though, there's really not so it would be Saturdays. So think about Saturdays from like the end of August to first week in November, right? Not every Saturday also. So, you get up in the morning and the weather's good. You're not dealing with snow or stuff like that. And the temperatures, it's on the way home. Usually I can have the windows rolled down, stereo going. And again, it's interstate driving, but it's not like I live in Wisconsin, it's not a very busy interstate like area. So traffic flows really well. And actually I like it. I mean, a lot of it's just like through forest and stuff like that. So, and I can throw in a podcast and stuff like that I'm listening to or whatever. So, or jamming out to music. It's not negative at all. And then actually, so the university is right along the Mississippi River. So it's really beautiful. It's not a negative. It's not a negative. Now, if I had to do it in winter, yeah, that would be pretty miserable, but no. And then I'll be there starting up in summer before long for like a seminar type class. I mean, one of the things is when you're a plus of a PhD, right, and having taught there for 18 years now, professor of the year, stuff like that, new doors open for you, right? Like one of the things I shared with people, they said, well, it takes so long to write a book, right? Well, I'm like, yeah, it does, right? 471 endnotes is just crazy to write philosophy of information. By the way, like that book is resonating so well with people. I'll talk about that a little bit, but I said the book is a key. It opens doors. The book there, I don't believe I would have received Professor of the Year without the book. The competition is just too tough for that, right? But the book is a work of scholarship. The university cites the book when it applies for its annual application, for federal funding, and for accreditation for higher education. It cites the book. So like, this was it. Like the book opens those type of doors for you. And so it's really a phenomenal tool. Plus, like the book is opening doors to some new classes, which are being developed in the program. And I've been contacted, do you want to teach this class, this 700 level class? And like the book could be the textbook for that. So like, that's the thing is when you initially write a book of scholarship, it appears in libraries all over the world. And that's kind of cool. Like it's in China and libraries like Germany, and I can see some of these areas where it's at. So you're not going to have like some crazy, Hogwarts, type Harry Potter book that's going to sell like nuts, but it's going to acquire an audience. It's going to acquire substantial footing in libraries and things like that. And then it opens up doors. It opens up doors to Professor of the Year, which I don't think I would have received without the book. And the classes, which I'm being offered now, brand new classes and brand new programs. And that will be a course text for one of them. So anyway, it's really cool. People don't, sometimes you have to sit down with people, or you just have to have that explanation of, so what does this book do for you? Like the book is such a credibility tool. It's such a, I didn't write it for that. I wrote it just to be a really good book for people to enjoy. But at the same time, right, because of 471 endnotes and scholarship, like the book. So if you're, let me back these up. So the university I teach for has to regularly apply for their accreditation, right? So they have to show that their faculty are doing scholarly work. And one of the things one is like my PhD helps in that. And because it's not a research university, it's mostly actually kind of a nursing college, but so my PhD helps in that. Plus then the book, because a few faculty write books. I mean, they do papers, and not to make light that the work that they're doing isn't important, but it's not really a research university, right? So when I come in as a researcher and have this book published through a scholarly publisher and stuff like that, they cite that, and that helps their application significantly. So that's kind of where things come in. So let's go over here to, I hate phone autocorrect. This is spam bot fodder. That is often why my posts are full of errors. Actually, I send people stuff all the time. It's got mistakes in it because of the correcting. I think people just kind of get used to that. Hook up with, C&T. He's a good guy. And I need to talk with him. I don't know what I would put back there, though. See, that's the thing. Is it, I don't think I can really do the Safety Doc logo, because this is what you see if you consult with me and you live in California, right? As a school administrator or, whatever. So this is pretty tame, like it's pretty decent. But I don't know what to put back in there. There's a big gap back there. I don't know what would match. I got to think that out a little bit. So yeah. Or a piece of artwork, maybe. I don't know. My professor the year. Oh, yeah, Doc should build a stage type thing in the backyard, lecture from it. Yeah. My backyard probably be better to lecture from my front yard. Bacon, I make my autocorrect for me. That's why I save all your names here. Thanks, Bam Fodder. On LG keyboard, I noticed I can turn off autocorrect. Good deal. We were hesitant to award you Professor of the Year due to the commenter in the chats here show, but in the end of the book, probably. Actually, I was very careful, right, in the topics leading up to the nomination and the award, right? Like, if we go back in the past shows, like they've all been pretty neutral stuff. I didn't want to hit anything that was kind of on the controversy area. So some of my online friends love using all the damn weird characters. Oh my God, it's Jim. Wow. So yeah, if you are chatting with Cappy or anything, razz him a little bit about how he made his good friend Doc copy podcasts to a thumb drive, put them in a mailer, take them to the post office and mail them to him when I just had them in a Dropbox and said, here they are. You can download them. And he saw them. And he saw them there. And he recognized it. He goes, yeah, but it'd be easier. It'd be easier for me. I'm like, okay, buddy. No problem. We're good friends. So Doc will do that for you. So, yeah. So let's go to negative expectation bias. So I'm going to skip us over out of this. Let's get out of here. Remove. Stop. There we go. Share. Share screen. Okay, here we go. So these are my show notes, and these are all in the description for today. So negative expectation bias. And let me just read through this. Let me get us off the screen. I'm feeling a lot of this right now. And I read a lot of this in the social media posts from people that I know. So negative expectation bias when all news is bad news. I wrote about this in the Philosophy of Information. I'll read some excerpts today. This is Safety Doc Podcast, episode 181, which means we are one more than Seinfeld. Seinfeld had 180 episodes. We are now at 181. When I restarted this in January, I think we were like at 150 or something like that. So the show's definitely going to be on track to hit 200 episodes. So pretty cool. So here, I'm going to read this. A popular Reddit thread is titled, "What Today is Going to Suck Red Flag." A top upvoted response was, "Waking up with a huge headache." And another was, "When you get all the red lights in your commute." It's right there. So you wake up with a headache, like you're already predisposed that everything is going to suck that day. This is going to be a bad day, right? So that is your framing, and you expect things to be bad, and they probably will be bad, right? Because that is just how you expect things to be. Or you hit all the red lights on your way to work. You're like, this day is just going to suck. So you're predisposed. This happens to us a lot. Each of us could add a comment to the thread, right? Yeah, we could, right? Per the National Institute of Health, consistent with this focus, an anxiety-linked negative expectation bias reflects an inflated tendency for anxious individuals to expect an increased probability of negative relative to positive events. In other words, when people expect negative events, bad luck, or suboptimal outcomes, that's what they will observe and perceive of the world around them. This frame of thinking might be accurate, but it is also damaging to morale if allowed to continue for long spans of time. In this episode, Doc will share his current observations of negative expectation bias, identify times, let's get that, it has happened throughout history, and offers research support and anecdotal suggestions to mitigate the languishing impact of negative expectation bias. He will read related excerpts from his book, Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times, right here. If you don't have it, it's available. It's out there on Amazon. I think there's 10 reviews right now, which is pretty awesome. So, and the audiobook will come out April 1st, 2023, narrated by Ben Hawk. So that's already completely done. It's in Findaway Voices, but by contract, I can't release it. Can't distribute it until then. So this whole negative bias. So there's a lot to this, right? Negative expectation bias. When we think things are going to be bad, or we just have this bad mood about this bad feeling, like, if you're an investor right now, you're just expecting tomorrow morning the stock market will be down, and the whole week is going to be down. Gas prices are going to be, your expectation is, the service isn't going to be good at the restaurant or whatever, or the store. So your expectation is negative, right? And it can also be negative, we're going to get negative news out of the war, like if there's going to be an escalation in military conflicts, things like that. So it doesn't mean these things are necessarily wrong, but it means that if you read through a newspaper, right, or someone is talking to you, you're going to hit on the parts that they say that are negative and align with your negative thinking, and not things that are not necessarily negative, right? So, you're going to kind of tune those things out. You're going to wait for the negative stuff and zip on that. So that's what this is. We all know people like this, right? We know people who just wait for the negative news, the negative Nellies, right? They kind of get in this groove and they find it, right? They find it, or they turn anything negative. The problem with this, well, there's many problems with this, but it's people you don't want to be around, but these are also people who are just not getting a lot of satisfaction out of their lives. So let's talk about bias. So, just again, bias. We all have biases. Doesn't mean that they're bad, but we all have them. So a bias is a tendency, inclination, or prejudice toward or against something or someone. Some biases are positive and helpful. So like choosing to only eat foods that are considered healthy. So we're staying away from someone who's caused harm. So yeah, that person's been kind of causing some bad stuff there. Stay away from this bias. But biases are often based on stereotypes rather than actual knowledge of an individual or circumstance, whether positive or negative. Such cognitive shortcuts can result in prejudgments that lead to rash decisions or discriminatory practices. Our life experiences shape our biases, as do our families. They have a big role, as do our sources of information. If you're only going to Drudge report for your information, your biases are probably going to be pretty negative, right? So, because Drudge is capturing the most crazy headlines out there. So again, negative expectation bias. And I do have an excellent excerpt I'm going to read on this that comes into play. So normalcy bias, one of the most prominent biases in the safety community, for example, is normalcy bias. It's the belief that an event really isn't that severe, right, to cause you to alter whatever you're doing. And you believe things will return to normal in a short time, because usually they do, right? If the power goes out, well, in the next hour, power will be back on, right? If this is how we think we perceive the events that we observe in our world, in this normalcy bias, if there is an actual crisis, people who believe in normalcy bias and kind of function that way, they don't react in time, and then the suddenly changing context overwhelms them. So these are people who don't realize like, hey, like there's a tornado about to hit. You have to get downstairs. So they're slow to react. And the thing with safety, right, is the time between something happening and your reaction, you need to shorten that time. That's a big thing in what you're trying to do with all your safety training. And these normalcy bias people, something happens and they just hang out here. Oh, it'll go back to normal or whatever, it's not that bad and things like that. And it's like pretty soon, like when it's just like overwhelming, fire or whatever it is, it's too late, right? So let's go over to the chat here. So who remembers the space shuttle disaster that played the explosion and loop for months? And I remember it. I remember the day that Columbia happened. I was in middle school, so I remember that. Greetings. This is from our good friend Sass One Too Many, our Cannonball Runner. I'm not biased against California because I judge them on their action. Judging is not prejudging. You're right, Andrew. So, yeah. So, right now, I've been reading and getting a lot of emails from people who are just in this mindset of, and I don't think this is necessarily wrong, but they do have a negative expectation bias with the economy, right? Inflation, with military conflict, with crime, and these are actually kind of authentic things, but they're hyper focused on this negative expectation bias, meaning they expect that tomorrow there will be bad things that will happen, right? And I guess every day there's bad things that will happen, but they are expecting. It's really crazy, like right now, right? The stock market is totally just crapping the bed, just going horrible. And I think if you were to talk to, most people investing or anyone in the market, right, they would say, what's tomorrow going to be like? I expect it's going to be bad. I expect the next month, the next year to be bad. So it is this expectation bias. So, so the thing again is like, as you get information, you tend to, if you expect bad information, that's what you're going to focus on. The rest of it will kind of go by you. And I'm going to give again, when I do the readings, you're going to see that specifically over time, how that happens. And it's really hard. If someone is expecting bad information, it's hard to convince them that whatever you tell them isn't bad, right? They'll twist it, whether it be health information, the economy, something going on with their family, whatever it is. I mean, because, a lot of information authentically we don't know, right? The government says, oh, like, jobs, employment is up 3.8%. Like, I don't know about that, but if you genuinely tell somebody, something, and they're expecting expectation bias to be bad, right? So let's say they're expecting that their water, right? That whatever, if they get it from a city or well, is going to have some levels of phosphorus or something in it. It'd be bad because the news has brought this up time and time again. So they're just expecting, like, oh, all these wells are being tested, are coming up with these high phosphorus, these levels that can hurt you. And so somebody tests their water and they say, hey, like your water is okay. Like it's within normal limits for this. They would be like, they wouldn't believe it. Like they would just be like, I don't believe it. Like, come back and test it again or do this and whatever. And they would just say, well, you test it now, like, but in a week, like it'd be negative, right? There would be issues. So, so this is really, so even when you share news with people of saying like everything's within like normal limits on this, they'd be like, I don't believe it. Like, or I'm still going to treat it as if it did have high levels of phosphorus. I'm going to get bottled water or something like that. So that's one that's kind of happening, not really close to me, but in my state with some people. So they're really afraid to drink the water, right? Even though there are municipalities and even some individuals have gone to take water samples to labs, and they said, you're within these limits, which is acceptable, right? But then they're kind of like, well, then it should be like zero. And you gotta be like, well, all water around here has some level of radon, right? Like 1 part per trillion. Like that's just always been since history, right? But so you kind of get people who really over focus on this. So let me read this. Media abhors in a vacuum. The media abhors an information vacuum, meaning the media hates it. if the media doesn't have information, they'll make something up, which I kind of make things up anyway. It will take what information it has and amplify it, the media, completing the ensemble with speculation when deemed necessary. Uncertainty makes us crave more information. So many people spend a lot of time looking for news updates, refreshing screens every few minutes to seek assurance. As people lose proportion and perspective, they spiral down a whirlpool of confirmation, expectation bias, whether it be positive or negative, in this case, negative expectation bias. That's on page 50 of Velocity of Information. So, yeah, so that's really crazy, right? So, this is a good example of would have been the protests and the riots of 2020. So let me go on here to page 67. Let me read this right from the book. So let's get in here. All right. I got to get a new mouse and keyboard. I should get like a gaming keyboard. Just something a little more quality. Come on, mouse. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to share this with you guys, but let me change the settings here. So I don't know. So I wrote about Charles Mack in my book, The Velocity of Information. And I was talking to Chuck a couple days ago. So he said, when he was really enamored, right, to be in the book. And it's a great story about, Chuck and the University of Pittsburgh Med. But I told him, I said, if I had to change the heading on your section, it's within a chapter. I said, I would call you the Pittsburgh Batman, because you were the hero that Pittsburgh Medical needed, but not that they deserved. Like, you stayed there. He stayed there like for weeks on end. He turned his office into like a dorm. He brought in a couch and a fridge and stuff like that. He didn't go home. So the internet stayed up, and the Wi-Fi was going for people, and he was training people on telemed and stuff like that. So I said I would call you the Pittsburgh Batman. That'd be the title of the subtitle of the chapter. I don't know what it is right now. I'd have to, but I said if I could go back, like, that chapter would be the Pittsburgh Batman. And I'm sure people would be like, oh my God, here's Pittsburgh Batman. So it's kind of like the running joke. So let's go back to the chat, and then I'm going to read this section out of the book. What in the world? Jim is saying, I'm certain the Democratic Party are behaving so terribly for one of two reasons. All right. Toytown, similar theory seen is a lot of confirmation bias, someone looking for a preconceived answer and ignoring country. Yeah, I think this is just a type of confirmation bias, but what you're looking for is negative, right? What you want is bad news. So when that news comes through, that's what you're focusing on and what you're amplifying out. So it is the bit. Hey, Doc. Hey, dudes, it's our good friend, the bit. Bacon, unfortunately, it's not enough to save California. Bacon, people who live outside LA and San Fran pay the taxes to keep California's bad ideas funded. Whoa. In the 80s, it wasn't. Yeah, we were, my wife and I went to visit her brother and his wife and family who live out there back in, I want to say, early 90s. Pretty nice back then. We were in San Francisco and stuff like that. So it's the bit. Bacon Andrew, don't forget, I grew up and was trained in LA, and a lot of people still in those areas don't agree with what's going on there. Yeah, family members lived about an hour from San Fran proper, but the property prices were already insane. No kidding. Bacon, at some point, people are enabling alcoholic if they keep the fridge full of beer. True. It was $1 million, even for a city lot with a great view. No kidding. Yeah. I have a couple of friends out there just like, it's so insane. Like, their property values have gone up and what they're paying in taxes. And So let me read here from my book. So let me bring it up on the screen. This is an excerpt, and let's do right here. I'm going to start out. This is expectation bias. This is going to be, we're going to start out right here on April 20th. So War of the Worlds was a radio play Orson Welles read in October 20th, right, 1938, right before Christmas. Not before, well, right before Halloween, kind of before Christmas. But we're going to read through this, and then we're going to talk about expectation bias. So this seems, you could look at this and say, oh, it was back in 38. It wouldn't happen today and all stuff. But we're going to, when I wrote about this, and well, this is actually from my book, right? But we're going to talk about negative expectation bias. So here we go. On October 20th, 1938, many Americans believed that they were being invaded by Martians. This erroneous belief was a result of a Halloween stunt orchestrated by Orson Welles, which he adapted H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds to the radio and then broadcast the play as though it was actually happening. A few short weeks before the broadcast, millions of listeners had kept their radios tuned for the latest news from Europe, apparently about to go to war. So this is key. Okay, right here. People in the U.S., right, had been listening because they anticipated, right, that Europe was going to be at war, the possibility the U.S. was going to come into it. This was back in 38, right? This is before Pearl Harbor. And so people, as they were listening to the radio broadcast, expected bad information because the world was starting to enter World War II, right? Countries were starting to enter World War II. So it wasn't that difficult for this radio broadcast to get people to believe that bad things were happening, even though if it wasn't a world war, necessarily it was a war with Martians invading the world. So this had a really big role, and I cited it here. I went through, there's a research study with this, and it was easier to convince people, as it might be today, right, of different bad things because they're already believing that the next news they hear will be bad. So this was part of the reason why this was so effective. And this wasn't done intentionally to scare people. Like, that wasn't the result Orson Welles had. This was supposed to be entertainment. But anyway, as people were listening to this, October 20th, 1938, when they weren't listening to the radio for entertainment, they were listening to try to get updates on what's happening in Europe. Was Europe going to go in all-out war? Was the U.S. going to be brought into that? So radio listeners, therefore, had a pre-existing negative expectation bias, right? Pre-existing negative expectation bias toward catastrophically bad news. In the weeks that followed, psychology professor Howard Cantrell of Princeton University and colleagues interviewed people to try and understand the reactions to the broadcast. Of those that mistook the radio play as a live news report, almost none of them tuned to another station where they could have quickly found that life was completely normal. Even more concerning, people who were frightened or disturbed by the news often hastened to telephone friends or relatives rather than attempting to verify the news of the invasion. These individuals were more concerned with spreading the terror-inducing information as quickly as possible in chapter 2, but anyway, the book. So this is the thing, right? This, when people are expecting bad news, so War of the Worlds, you're listening to this radio entertainment, and on one channel, by the way, 1938, and suddenly, they're like, Martians are invading whatever, and they're going through fields and this whole thing and stuff like that. And it's like, people are like, oh my God, it's Martians. And people are, believing this because they have been predisposed that there's going to be bad news. And then people are calling other people, hey, like, there's the Martians, and are they by you and stuff like that. Instead of like turning to a different station or kind of like even going outside, checking for themselves, right? Because no, this was real. But it was weird when you went through the interviews with people afterwards, including police officers who said, I saw these things firsthand, or we went to a field and we saw the imprints of these, big robotic structures which were carrying the Martians around. None of this ever happened, right? But if you predispose people enough to this, and it's kind of happening right now, right? Not kind of happening. It's happening with the stock market. It's happening with inflation news, with the media covers. It's happening with Russia has nuclear threats, right? So you're predisposing people for really bad to interpret news really poorly. This is much different than when I wrote the most honest book written ever about the $3 billion school safety industry, School of Errors. On September 11, 2001, as the Twin Towers fell, 500,000 people in New York City went to Lower Manhattan Battery Park. And in 9 hours, they were rescued by boat and taken off of Manhattan, right over to like New Jersey and things like that. When people went to Lower Manhattan to Battery Park, they expected that there would be a rescue force there. They expected the boats and somebody would be there to get them off of Manhattan. And the reason was because they were always told that as they were growing up, like, if there's ever it's us against like the Soviets or whatever, like, there would be this rescue force that would come in, the government, the military would protect you. So that's much different, right? That's a positive expectation. So if you get attacked, the government's going to step in and save you. But that wasn't the case here with this War of the Worlds. So it's not the case today. Like, so many people I talk to, and it's really alarming because so many of the people I talk to just expect everything to be bad. And I say there's a lot of bad things out there. The economy, stock market, supply chain, just the way that people are treating each other, crime, carjackings, theft, things like that. But there are also things that are awesome which are happening. Think of how 3D printing is kind of going just bananas in good ways. Being able to 3D print a number of things in your home or with a 3D community. 3D printing, for example, during disasters is really expanding, like the opportunities for that. Distance learning opportunities. So just the amount of information that's put on the web where you can get certifications that don't cost you anything, Google certification. I mean, there are good things that are happening too, right? There are good things, but we are very predisposed right now. And some people are just caught in this cycle of this negative bias, right? So when that news is out there and there's plenty of it, that is exactly what they are picking up on their antennas. They're not picking up the other stations. So it's really bad for morale. It's bad for health. It's mental health. It's these people are really languishing. You probably know some of it. Maybe it's you. I would say, like, even for me, like, I've had to take my own advice, as I wrote in the book. Get out in nature. It was maybe a week ago, I took a 7-mile hike out in the woods, which was really good. Wasn't checking my phone. I just was hiking and the green space and stuff like that. Doing the podcast, right? And so the podcast transitioned me forward through time, because every Monday there's a podcast. I do the blog post the next day, things like that. So yeah. But if you know people who are stuck in this rut, right, of the negative, help them. Like, point out things that are either like just neutral, like 3D printing, like it's hard to get on one side or the other unless you're kind of Second Amendment, right, with 3D printing. But, what if you can 3D print parts for, whatever that you'd have to order before, or a 3D printed home, or a 3D printed, water filter, or, I think there's things too, like, is it Jay Leno? Jay Leno was saying, like all these classic cars he has, like 100 years old and stuff. He said, back in the day, you would, if you couldn't find replacement parts, you'd have to have these custom manufactured, be very expensive. And some people, they wouldn't even be able to do it. Now you just can kind of 3D print these parts. You can 3D print metal parts. And so, I think to bring these things up to people. So, but anyway, let's go back to the chat. So there was a reading there. So let's go back to the chat. Tennessee is worse than Andrew he's come on, man. So my daughter and my wife were in Tennessee last year and they loved it. My daughter was there for a dance competition. I think they were there for like 5 days. They loved it. Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Dollywood. So I have friends in Tennessee. So I have a friend who played for the Tennessee Titans football team, the NFL team, who stayed there and loved it. Loves living there. So Gatlinburg, I'm not really, that area with the wildfire risk and stuff like that. But Detroit, oh my goodness, I have to ask our good friend Joe Dolio. But I do know some people in Detroit. He says actually more murders and violence in Detroit or Flint. Yeah. The thing is, like, what gets prosecuted? Like, I never paid attention to that until the last maybe 3 years, right? You have laws, but what actually gets prosecuted? And, it's that's the part that there's this big disconnect. So especially like I'm in an outer ring of a metro area which is experiencing significant crime, and especially by younger people, 14, 15, and there's really no significant consequence. So the water in Flint takes first place for the murder rate. Yikes. I think lead in the water, right? If you pull up the FBI stats in the 80s and 90s, I have not. Yeah, well, some people can't leave just yet. People I respect. Easy to say what people should do when you're not dealing with a situation. By the way, there are good parts place. So thanks for writing that, Bacon. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know a lot about California. I have family that lives in California. I have a lot of friends that live in California. I consult in California, but I consult remotely in California. So what I found really fascinating. So in the book Velocity of Information, which you could order right now, ebook. But when I interviewed Juan Brown, who lives near Oroville, about the Oroville Dam crisis in 2017, where the spillway split halfway down, right, and then they had to go over the emergency spillway, and then he wrote it back, and so they're like, what do we really do here? Oroville Dam, or the reservoir is record levels, and just today, I read an article. The dam is like at a record, or the reservoir is like a record low. I don't even know if there's enough water to pass through the power generation station at the base of the dam. So like 5 years ago, the reservoir was so high it overtopped the secondary spillway, and it almost caused the entire complex to collapse, right? And today, like, the water is so low. I think it's only like at 0.5% capacity, or half capacity. So it's really weird. As you're reading like this chapter, like Oroville Dam stuff, like if you would go in and Google it today, you'd find that the reservoir is like at a record low versus like 5 years ago. Like the story here is record high. It's kind of weird. How do you think all the factory workers feel around here? Bacon, people learn to manufacture things. They move to Jim. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jim. I mean, I think, yeah, it's horrible, right? It's absolutely horrible. And then call the basket of deplorables by Murray. Yeah. No, Jim, you're right on. I mean, the treatment of people, especially by politicians. And when I wrote about the velocity of information right away, essential versus non-essential, when that decree came out in 2020, for example, and how that got split into who was deemed essential versus non-essential, what we expected, and then also how we treated essential people. Like if you were essential in healthcare, that was one thing. If you were essential as a truck driver, that was completely different. Waysides were shut down. There wasn't any real support for you. I had that podcast with Jonathan Berger, if you want to go back, and I still think that is just phenomenally awful as a country, how that was handled. But anyway, this let me go back to this. Yeah, it is really bad, the way that we have polarized people kind of into this essential, non-essential, and even in my state, like our governor was at some event for the trades, right? And it was like, more students as an option if college isn't there. And I was like, the wording of it was just really strange. I'm like, well, dude, like, this isn't an either or. It's not like the second opportunity if you don't get into college, right? Like, these are on the same plane. If so, it was just really weird the way it was presented. It was on our local news like a couple weeks ago and stuff like that. But one of the things I appreciate the most is when I went to school, we still had shop classes, right? Where I learned to weld, I learned to do basic electrical. I built a toolbox, which was stolen out of my car, which I regret that I put it in my car. But I learned a lot of skills, and I'm like, if I could go back today, I would take more industrial arts classes and less other classes, right? Because those are the classes that I use. Those are the skills I use today when I have to fix things, and practical, knowledge and just things like that are so much more important in my life. But anyway, I'm glad I did learn what I learned. Best phrase I heard was "get out and touch some grass" aimed at people locked in base. You're right on. There's so let me get here at the book up. 12, no. All right. So let's do this. Let's switch over here. Thanks, Toy Town. So there, I wrote 12 ways to disrupt finite voltage, or basically to prevent burnout, or if you're burning out, if you got this negative bias, like how you can kind of straighten that out. And there's a few things in here. One is to say, I observed. And if you demand this of people, like that you work with, or in your family or whatever, and you just say, like, if people say, oh, on TV today it was this, or somebody said this or whatever, and you say, what did you observe? If you were at the grocery store, well, I observed that, this was out, or, people were doing this or whatever. That's different than saying, well, this is what they said, or this is what, and I absolutely, the ABC nightly news with David Muir, all these breaking news and all this stuff like this. It's like, it's so much different than I observed. David Muir said this. Well, he's trying to get ratings, right? Embrace crowd in. We'll kind of go back to that. Name your fears. We don't really have to get into that. Identify, mitigate sources. This is a big one. So I had a chapter in Philosophy of Information toward the start where I interviewed Linda Stone, who was executive with Microsoft. One of the things Linda is an expert in is attention, how we use our attention, what attention is. And this whole thing of like multitasking, how you can kind of split your attention, like I get into that very deep in that chapter with the interview with her. It's not, you can change your attention. You can focus on one thing very specifically and then focus on another, but this thing where you can like split your attention across like many things, that's not really how attention works. So the thing is, like, just turn this stuff off. Aaron Clary does it very well. Goes out for a hike. He's not, doesn't have his phone on. He's not tied into social media, right? He is disconnected. So do that. Disconnect from, you can have your phone with you, right? But you're not like strolling on a hike and checking your phone the whole time. Talk to yourself. We're not going to do that. Restore, start and end routines. This one was more for the start of the pandemic, right? When people were told to stay home. And then they're like, oh, I'm used to going, to work at 8 a.m. and coming home at 5 or whatever. And now like it's different, right? So I'm checking my email at all hours of the day and I'm not leaving the house. So have a start and end time to your routine to your day. Like I do this, like I get up, and I got certain things I do in the morning, kind of certain things I wrap up, even though I'm kind of like mostly retired, right? Semi-retired, I guess. I do keep that because it gives a very defined start and end time. Otherwise, things just kind of roll together. Change things every 60 days. I won't get into this. Writing. This is very prominent in the research that I did. It's in the book. But when you write and you date things and you do things like, like today, or like the stuff I did outside, the yard work in the last couple of days, like, spread the mulch and vacuumed up the leaves and all of that stuff. Like those are all things that you can see the progression from a start to finish. If you're writing things down, right, or you're doing a podcast or a blog or something, you have dates on that, it moves you forward. So images over words. This is very big. Like we communicate with images, right? to people, especially during chaotic times. They can soak it in better. But anyway, here was kind of what we're talking about. Getting out, getting in the green grass, exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Many studies with that. Actually, a lot of studies came out at the start of COVID, and then they kind of didn't get a lot of play, but they're from National Institute of Health and other things of saying, hey, like, do this stuff. Spend more time outdoors. It's right here. Research has shown that spending time in nature has been associated with decreased levels of mental illness, with the strongest links to reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety, in addition to increased self-esteem. So that was cited there in my book. In the general population, other studies have shown that attention is almost uniformly enhanced by exposure to natural environments. University of Michigan psychology researchers Mark Berman, John Jonides, and Stephen Kaplan found memory, performance, attention spans improved by 20% after people spend an hour interacting with nature. So just right there, and there were many studies in this, right? So these are just short segments and pulling in. Here's like 12 things you can do. But being out in nature, being out in green space, taking a walking away from your phone, just stuff like that was a good way to reset and your attention, right? And then your mental well-being. People saying, I feel more positive, shedding this negative expectation bias, right? You get out in nature. Now, I say that, and I live in Wisconsin where 5 months, 6 months of the year, it's winter and cold. It's hard to kind of disassociate yourself from that. Like when I'm outside and it's cold and it's slippery to walk and stuff, like I'm not getting a lot of positive vibes. But like today was really a great day for me with the things that I did to disassociate, to be outside, to be in nature, right? And results increasing attention, increasing mental well-being. Spend time outdoors. Linda Stone talked a lot about that. I didn't write as much about it in the interviews I did with her, but in all the interviews are recorded. She mentioned that quite a bit of people need to be outdoors. It's just so important for people to have exposure to green space, right? So anyway, get out of this. Let's go back to the chat here. Jim is saying, can't put on or take off clothes and pretend to enjoy live on camera in factory manufacturing. True. Yeah. Then take that up with the government's real problem, like everyone else. Blue states I pick on California too, but you guys are whoa. Right. I don't want to get in the middle battle here. You guys got to keep things going. As a gun guy, laws mean nothing to me once you see what is prosecuted. Yeah, that's the thing, right, Toy Town? And I'm really observing that now. What is going on for prosecution of a range of things, right? Like I watched a couple short documentaries just in the last month that were filmed in the last month. It was about carjackings and how police were stepping up patrols for carjackings, stuff like this. But then there was this other part of it on prosecution, and a number of people involved in carjackings, even with weapons, were released the same day, right? So they'd be like, this person that we arrested just carjacked somebody else like a day or two later. And then, interviewing people who have been carjacked like the first time ever in their life, right? And they're like, oh my God, this emotional, have someone put a gun at you and get out of your car. And so yeah, it does seem like it's again, kind of negative information, right? Negative expectation. But 3D printed gun, yeah, 3 agencies. I talked about the 3D printed gun stuff with, I was on Matthew Hoover's show. So, which a lot of you know Matthew Hoover, right? Who lives about 30 miles from me, maybe not that far, but I was on his show maybe 2 years ago. I don't know if it was that long ago. And I said, I was talking to him, right? Because I know Matt. And I said, 3D is going to really get a heavy focus from government agencies. And part of this was set up through what was called the CASE Act, which went into law. It had to do with intellectual property. Went into law last year. So, but I said, this is going to be anything that you're doing in the 2A community that involves 3D printing is going to have heavy scrutiny. So let's talk about it, because I think the CASE Act is opening the door for a lot of things that I don't like with intellectual property and kind of those areas. But anyway, so we talked about it, and people were saying, "Oh no, like you can 3D print this or whatever," and stuff like that. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, like, the way that the CASE Act is written and this new legislation and powers to enforce and stuff is, you're going to be heavy scrutinized. And these new 3D printers are probably going to be made to ping to a database, and they're going to see if you're 3D printing something, if it has a copyright. There's a lot of stuff like you can do for yourself, but like, what if you start to print like 2 of something where they think you could be distributing something? And I said, it's not really my wheelhouse, but I want to talk to you about it, because when I teach my school legal classes, we talk about 3D printing, because schools will have 3D printers in all of their shops. And when students are 3D printing things, what are they doing from Thingiverse versus like something that they print, or like maybe they start to redesign something that could have a copyright infringement area or trademark, and then they're printing it and selling it, or they're printing it and repurposing it back there in free domain, right? I just said this stuff is more complicated. And of course, the way that copyright is changing, there's like these committees that are put together now to judge if you violated copyright or not. I mean, I don't want to get into a whole CASE Act thinking right now, because I'm not really prepared for that. But if so, you can have people who aren't judges and juries. This committee basically can look at a copyright infringement, and if it's 2A stuff, you're more likely to have this go against you. And that was the thing I was talking to Matt about. I said, this is not a good setup, right? So just in that regard, I said, there's a really harsh intersection here with 2A. And a lot of the posts are right, we're saying this will never happen or whatever. But I said, no, man, people just got to be aware of it. Makes me wonder how Lake Mead is doing. Lake Mead is not well. Yeah, I monitor that on probably a weekly basis. Like, I'll check in on Mead, because I liked when we were at Hoover Dam. But yeah, it's really low, right? Like record low. Finding more dead bodies. It's crazy. Yeah, it's our good friend Ribbit Harrison, our zero weight oil buddy. So there he is. It's Robert. Heath, hi Doc. I have to call BS on the water shortage, at least in Arizona. Okay. Rode my bike to Tempe Town Lake. It's filled to capacity, and they have expanded to the massive aquifer. Everyone. Wow. Okay. I don't know. I don't live out there. So, so that is what you're doing now, is you're member checking, you're doing face validity and saying, here's an area, right? And you could actually take photos of that with Solocator, the app, and it would say, like, you were here at this time. Here's what the image is associated to this location. So yeah. So I appreciate that. You're doing that's a great member check input there. So the baby formula shortage is a feature now, but it is weird, Andrew, right? So a couple things is, one is what Abbott Labs was found to have some production issues. So like some of the baby formula couldn't be sold. But this is where, so you have a keen observation here. So thank you for posting this. Back, what was it, a month ago? So let me find this. So, ta-da. So when all right, here we go. So, yeah. When I think of Chuck Mack, by the way, in my book, like now, this whole thing of the Pittsburgh Batman, which, again, if I could rename that chapter, I would. But I have this whole thought, this song in my mind from Rhinestone Cowboy. And it's like, the Pittsburgh Batman, dun dun, riding through Pittsburgh on a thumb drive. It's the Pittsburgh Batman. Dun, dun. Okay, so Andrew's saying baby formula is a feature, not a bug. Let's go back over to here. So this was from February 2nd, 2022. Do you remember this? It was on the news, came out of the White House. Here it is. Fact sheet. President Biden reignites cancer, moonshot to end cancer. So this is a low-key, L-O-K-I. This is definitely a low-key. This is where you try to divert people's attention. So first of all, no one is against trying to end cancer, right? But you're doing this at the time when we have the onset of the war between Russia and Ukraine and supply chains and everything else. This isn't where you need to be putting your efforts right now, right? This is on the list. It doesn't move up to your top thing. This is a low key. This is to divert people. And so this stood out to me right away. Like this was, you're trying to just, make it seem like you're trying to do something right that's big and robust and all that. And instead of doing what you really need to be doing, which is to fix the supply chain the best you can, to put together a task force for that, or Pete Buttigieg or something, right? So we talk about this baby food shortage right now. Why don't we have a government, a task force on that? We had National Guard who went into hospitals to help during the pandemic, right? Why don't we have National Guard going to, baby formula, right, areas, or to distribute this, right, or whatever, or to get the eliminate the intellectual property rights on this, as they did during the pandemic for ventilator parts. You had 100 days or something where people could 3D print their own ventilator parts. Not that people would be making this at home, but that other companies could be making baby formula, right? That you could have these proprietary things shared with other companies for a certain amount of time. But it's not declared a national emergency, right? It isn't. The capacity is there, but you're not doing anything about it, which really is, it's weird. It's weird propaganda. It's just strange. You're right on it, Andrew. It's a feature. It is not a bug. It's a feature. There should be something coming out, as you would think, from the White House, or something coming out from, I can't think of what organization specifically dealt with the intellectual property rights in COVID, with sharing of ventilators and masks and things of that have been copyrighted, but basically said, if you have a printer, you can print these for 100 days and you won't get in trouble. But yeah, so why isn't this happening? And why aren't we trying to stage this in different areas, or get the National Guard involved or something like that, right? So it is really bizarre. You're paying attention, you've recognized it. And what we get instead is, we got this. This is back in February, but this is a big low-key thing. No, this is where you have to put it like you're doing something, right? And who's going to argue against this? Again, a low-key is a straw man argument that no one is going to fight against. It's like, well, who's going to argue, right, against trying to end cancer? But if you get in and do the actual very hard work now, I guess, of trying to bring up or fix the supply chain, right, or to increase a baby formula to try to solve, there's nothing. We haven't seen one press conference about this, right? We haven't seen anything. So that's where you get to see a really dysfunctional administration. I regret feeding that poison to my kids. So SAST's one too many. But you guys see it, right? You see it, right? I'm not the only one who's looking at this. This is really, as Andrew said, it's strange right now, because why wouldn't you come out as a White House all over this? Why wouldn't you come out and either relax some intellectual property things, or that you're going to have National Guard, or you're going to do something to work with the manufacturers. Like, you could spin this in a positive way, 10 ways to Sunday, and you're not doing it. So why? Like, that's the part that I don't get. Like, the propaganda from the current administration. Well, going back, the propaganda wasn't good since the start of the pandemic. And that's very well pointed out in my book, right? I mean, there's like the Committee for National Morale during World War II, like, just had it down. And when people review the book, they will point out, like, that chapter 4 is like really, really enlightening. Like, I didn't know these things existed. But why wouldn't you do that now? Why wouldn't you do this, at least in a PR perspective? Why wouldn't you do this? And what would it take? I mean, you have a few photo ops and so see, these are the kinds of things that are really strange now, like broken propaganda. It's really weird. Used to have fat kids in school. Now we kids that look like they would blow away to government. Adderall for loss, Mr. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not taking a position you're for or against the form. I'm just saying, like, from a propaganda public relations standpoint, if you're going to come out with this as the White House, why wouldn't you come out with Pete Buttigieg, right, who I've heard nothing about, is so far in the background? Why wouldn't you come out and showcase some campaign to address this? I mean, right? Like, babies and mothers, and especially on like, you had Mother's Day, and like last week could have been something. I mean, it's like these. And tomorrow night, by the way, I'm going to be on the Mallard report, Jim Mallard, and I'm going to talk about this on the Mallard report, because the propaganda is so crazy right now, and the fact that it's so poorly done. Even if you were genuinely not going to do much of anything about this as an administration, you could do a propaganda release on this, which would at least give the appearance that you cared. I mean, jeepers. This is a Jim from Bacon. If you can't say something positive about a place, that's called bias, like what Doc's talking about. I left for a reason. I hate Seattle, but even I can find good things about it. So, without a vision for the future, this is Jim, hope dies, and we get you're right. And I think, so Jim, thanks for posting this. One of the things I wrote about in the Velocity of Information was that people today, especially young people, but not just young people, like people my age or younger. So I guess, but it's not only that they don't have a vision for the future, they don't know how to set goals. And that's important, right? You have what criteria, like, what do you want to accomplish? How are you going to measure it? What's your starting point? What if you don't get there? Like, how would you change it up or whatever? And people just don't know how to do this. Like, there's a complete loss for this out there. So, we don't teach it. We don't formally teach it. And so there's a big loss. Like, people just are not planning, especially if you're younger. Like, what is your vision? You have no vision for the future. It's a metaverse maybe, or I don't know. You're right on with this. Hope dies, and we get what we have. I really don't know. As I observe people, and I don't know a lot of people that have long-term goals. I was talking to my tax CPA about this. And when we got done with the taxes this year, and she said, one of the things like that she's observing, right, as a tax CPA, she said people, used to, come in and they would be like, here's where I want to be when I'm age 50 or 60 or 70. And she said, I don't get that anymore. Like, it's really like people are kind of like today, and they anticipate tomorrow's going to be bad. And they also anticipate that, there's going to be higher taxes and less benefits, just less access to food and resources and down the road. But she says it's very observable in the way that people talk, and when you go through their taxes with them and they are talking about the things that they do. Like, people will have a 401k or something, but they'll be like, I they're what they look forward to in the future isn't much versus maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. So it's very interesting. But you're right. Yeah. And I think that part of this comes in with people don't know how to set goals. And that's maybe a show that I could do because I'm pretty good at that, right? As being a special ed director and everything being goals and objectives and stuff like that. But I think there are very specific ways, and I've read about it in the velocity of information too, of teaching people how to set a goal. And it sounds easy, right? Oh, just set a goal. But the reality is it's not easy to set unless you've been taught. Yeah, I mean, what do you want for your goal? Yeah, your objective baseline and how you're going to measure it, how you're going to change, how you're going to feel if you don't hit the goal or something like that. But let's go back here. This is bacon disaster. I imagine you're not alone there. Then again, the food a lot of people eat isn't much better. Yes. Go for tacos right now. So I wish that Taco Bell was in walking distance. Hypothetically, it is, especially with the weather right now. But so Seattle's Microsoft's Silverblood mine. So from Jim, going to stick with that analogy because it's accurate. So Skyrim. But if one wrong hydroelectric dam fails, millions will die and there's a flooding, crisis, and disease. You're right. And Jim, when I interviewed Juan Brown and wrote about the Orville Dam, the 2017, right? Orville Dam is the tallest dam, 700 feet, Northern California. If the Orville Dam would have failed, Sacramento would have been 5 foot under water, right? Or basically 5 feet of water in Sacramento. Sacramento's in a basin. And so, yeah. I can see that the printer will report you to the... Yes. Yeah. So, and the thing is, and this is where, when I was on, I was giving Matt a heads up on this, like, a couple of years ago, but in his audience, I said, these people come on and, I'll just go offline and stuff like that. So it just isn't going to work that way. Like for some of you, yes, but we are a subscription society, right? Like you go and you get your TV and stuff from Netflix, and you have your subscription to Amazon, and you have your subscription for your software, right? As I'm getting this system updated. Thankfully, like the place where I'm getting it updated, they still sell like the one-time fee thing, but he's like, I don't know how long I'll be able to do this. Otherwise you have to get your subscription, but we're a subscription society. Like cars, like, right. They even want you to subscribe to be able to have, the different, features, heated seats or something like that's a subscription, even though you buy the car with that. So, anyway, it is 3D printers will ping this. I mean, this just will happen very quickly. They'll ping out to some source, and what they'll probably say is, just so you know if there's anything matching similar in copyright or whatever. And you'll subscribe, like you'll just buy things and they'll probably be very affordable. But there's also like, what if you want to print things or modify things, right? Or you want to work with a community, and then what crosses into what's been copyrighted or trademarked. So here's an interesting thing, like, in the book, because I have 471 endnotes, right? Like, so the book has to be very thoroughly cited, so nobody can come back and successfully claim copyright infringement, which they wouldn't be able to do on that book. And very few things in that book that are outside of a handful of quotes where I've identified people fully cited. But if you were to do a copyright on something that you 3D printed, let's say it's a flute or whatever, somebody could. It would cost you, I think, like the minimum is about $250. So I was looking into this because I'm going to trademark a couple things that are in the book. A couple of my diagrams I'm going to trademark because I use them in presentations, and there's things with that. But it's like $250 to go to the government website and to like do the search. And if you've done it right, then I think you're pretty well protected, even if something that's discovered later and you can prove that you did the search, whatever. But these are things that people don't realize, right? So yeah, your 3D, your printers are totally, and what is it? All Pro, what could happen, right? If there's government regulation said, hey, like you can't use a 3D printer unless it pings out to whatever, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know all these things, but, or they could outlaw, a 3D printer, or if you print more than one of something, right, on a 3D. I don't know. I don't know all these things, but I do know the CASE Act in 3D printing as a very abrasive interface. So much overregulation, micromanagement. Yeah, no kidding. And the thing is now with like the CASE Act, for example, you're presumed guilty until you prove your innocence. And these committees can put fines up against you of several $1,000s right off the bat. They can look at your, whatever you 3D print it and say, oh yeah, this is a copyright. And this committee could literally be 5 people from your town that were just, it's not really a town level. I don't know. This is be a regional type thing. But so let's see here. Is this a weather thing that came in? No, it's US Cellular saying just in time promotion. Bucks lost. That sucks. So it's be a hard series for him without Chris Middleton. Let's check out a weather update here. Let's do the radar. Still pretty far off from us. Slow moving. Looks pretty intense though. Definitely get. No, you're right. You're right on. So that's where we could say it's like negative, right? You're going to expect news that's coming out about 3D printers and things. So this is where I'm excited about 3D printing, for example. And I wrote about that in Velocity of Information. Like 3D printing is, again, it's kind of like our modern microwave. Like, when the microwave started, in the 80s, like people had microwaves. I mean, it was this awesome thing to have in your house. Like you could, put something in there and heat it up and you didn't have to stoves, all this other stuff. But when you have a 3D printer in your house and the ability to have a menu and things you can print versus like going to a store, get them, or car parts or parts for your, as Flying Rich would say, like for his pool vac or whatever these things turn out to be. At some point, there'll be 3D printing for food and stuff like that. I don't want to get into all that because I don't really have a position on that. I wrote about it in the book. GE is already trying to get there, but there's this trade-off, right? Like everything that you print under these subscriptions and things, maybe it's really affordable, maybe it's really portable, you don't have to leave your house, stuff like this, but there will be a record of everything you've printed and they'll be checked, or everything that you've designed or manufactured, right? As part of owning this system, there will be this record of it that's kept. So this is Bacon to Jim. There are Microsoft buildings in Seattle, but the base in Redmond, I think, and I hate most of the people that work in Amazon buildings. Oh my goodness. Toy Town. Unregistered guns were yesteryear. Unregistered 3D printers are tomorrow. Could be. Toy Town. Could be. So, yeah. And the thing is with this, right? This will be, what will the legislation be on this? Will it be that if you have an unregistered 3D printer, it'll be a felony? So what if they find one in your house or your property and now they take everything from your property, or, there's a lien against your property, or a $50,000 fine, or some hold on your 401k, or you can't bank, right? I mean, we don't know what the state could do on these things. And that's the part that gets really scary on this, especially in the last year. I think like people who donated to the truckers in Canada, and then all of that became made public, and pretty soon people were finding out they didn't have access to their bank accounts, not only people from Canada, but some people in the US. So, hey, it's T for Texas. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't, you're new. Hey, hello, buddy. Hey, good people. T for Texas. Yep, toy toning. So channels, I think we're at 1187. We've kind of hovered around there. It'd be nice to get up to 1,200 subscribers. So we're doing good on watch hours. We don't have our traditional people who will just like watch and watch and watch and watch. They need to stop developing Vegas, second fastest city in the Midwest desert. Yeah, Vegas has got troubles ahead for it. So, I mean, especially residential Vegas, right? They make a trademark approved clock BB gun with clock polymer, U.S. Senate, Big Five sporting goods. So, yeah, right. So, and the question is like, just does it get, who decides politicians, right? Legal or not legal. And then suddenly you have something that's what was legal yesterday and today it's not legal. Bill Cup could easier throw some fentanyl pills in your car. You're done. Yeah. So one of the things too is, Joe Dolio, a tactical wisdom, but Joe is always saying, always have a camera on you, right? Like he has these links to these pen cameras you can keep on you from, get them pretty cheap off of Amazon. So like video evidence is really big, but right. What if the thing is like, we are in this whole place where video evidence is really big right now, but I think in a year it's going to be very much contested because people say like, oh, that was deepfake or deepfake avatar that was manipulated. That's when we have this whole like White House disinformation czar, which is a crazy position, right? All these positions just being created. But this disinformation czar, and that kind of like that person hasn't been heard of after she did her weird expialidocious, whatever, her TikTok thing, which I thought was really demeaning to a political appointee position at a White House. But anyway, but I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could see if you had a disinformation czar in a committee that would tackle like deepfakes and avatar realism, like that would make sense. And I like, I know people that would be appropriate to put on that committee, right? Teresa Payton and so forth. But yeah, this whole thing of just having, this is really bad, right? So disinformation, what is it? And you're going to have one person, whatever, making this determination, and we'll see what happens with Elon Musk and Twitter. But that's again, we get into propaganda. If you were going to introduce a disinformation czar, which I didn't think was necessary, but at a federal level, right? It's really scary. And then what if you were declared that you are a, purveyor of disinformation? What could be the consequences for you? But yeah, as we go through this whole disinformation thing, wouldn't it have made sense to present this person and saying they are going to be leading towards cyber disinformation, toward bots, and toward deepfakes and avatar and stuff like that? It would have made sense to do that. So, yeah. Heath is saying China makes it easy to remove the restriction on regulated electronics. A lot of time they come with instructions on how to make them fun. Interesting. Andrew to Jim, yeah, if I were in a jury, I would always vote not guilty unless the cop has body cams on his hands. New York Outcast. Good evening, everyone. I'm tied up tonight, so just dropping in to say hi and hit the thumbs up. Thank you, New York Outcast. Very much appreciate it. So, appreciate it. Let's go back here to comments. It's our good friend Sast One Too Many. I want to have him back on the show. My friend got a DV while walking away from his mom. The way you might wave your hand at a fly or mosquito. Barely touched hands, and the police haul him away when they found him. Whoa. I think DC, right? Disorderly conduct, only a VNC, but disorderly conduct, yeah. What happened with UFO sightings with the number of cameras? Right? And if we go back a year ago, do this. Was it a year ago? Yeah. So let's bring this up. So this was, remember, it was back last summer, back in June, where the U.S. intelligence community was going to have this big UFO report and these videos of UFOs and stuff like that. And here's like one, but you're like, well, what's really going on here? You're watching this, like, I don't know. And, this groundbreaking stuff. And it really came out to be nothing, right? So, yeah, it's really good, right? And it's kind of, we have like channel 42 is like either the UFO or the ghost channel. Like one of the two is playing on there all the time. And it's funny because they'll bring people on like, this person is a folklorist. I'm like, a folklorist? What is that type of job title? But yeah, considering some high definition images of this stuff, it's a good point. God, this UFO thing is going crazy on the other screen here. Made that exact point to being a guy about UFOs. So I remember when I was in college, there was a guy that came in and he did a presentation of UFOs, and so I'm assuming he just went college to college, and this was like a night thing, yeah. And then a lot of his stuff was blacked out. Like 90% of what he put on the overhead was blacked out. And it's kind of a novelty back then. People were razzing him and stuff like that. No one took him serious, I guess. But it's like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm about ready to tune out the world for a while. What's the point of embracing this like 24? Hang in there, Sass. I want to have you back on the show just so we can kind of talk about this thing. Sass and I have been talking about some other stuff too, so it'd be kind of good to do that. Let's try to do that soon. But no, I am one of the things I really get tired of is one is the media. I absolutely hate the news, and I hate the nightly news, right? The curated news, which is just a joke. But I don't care for this stuff at all. That's why, at least in summer, I bike riding and working in a yard, doing other stuff, get away from this. But yeah, you're right. It is it's 24/7. One of the things right now with the stock market just puking itself, which is horrible, right? So, and it's not going to get any better. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better any soon. So, like the brokerages will come on and they'll be like, join us at 3:15 for a conference call, and we're going to give like updates and stuff like that. They don't know anything. They know nothing. They know nothing more than you do. Of course, you have to positive spin it. So you're just going to hear, there's headwinds right now, but a year from now or whatever, remember you're investing for the long term. I'm like, well, no, like, if you have $100 and it goes down, let's just say hypothetically, $100, it goes down 50%, you have $50. If $50 goes up 50%, you have $75, right? So to try to reclaim what you lost is really hard. Plus you're paying like all these fees, like if mutual funds or like management fees, if that's the situation you're in, but your taxes on capital gains or dividends, I mean, you're getting beat up all the way down and you're getting beat up all the way back to the starting line. So like you listen to these people and I'm like, you know nothing more than I do. Like this is modern age, right? Like I have access to things and plus face validity, and people like, and if you knew all of this, why weren't you the leading firm to come out and tell all your clients like things were going to go, horribly bad here with inflation and other things? It's just a joke. And that's where I really have got my fill with all this stuff. So anyway, people right now, if you're locked into a 401k, like through your employer, and you're not 59 and a half, you can't take it out, you can't retire. You guys can take it out, penalty and stuff like that, but you're really cooked. You're just sitting there watching what you have just get beat up. And yes, you're going to have money added to it now to cost average, but that doesn't nearly make up. Especially, if you kind of look at these things on a timeline, right? If you go back and say, the 2008 housing crisis and banking crisis, Lehman Brothers went under, GM got bought out by the government, right? And then, the pandemic, and now we get hit up again with inflation and this whatever. That's in 14 years to have those three big hits, like that's not good, because you just kind of recover and you get hit again and sink and then kind of recover and hit again. And the whole time, like you're paying on the way up. If anything, you're getting taxes on the way up, or I don't know, but it just irritates me. I get so fed up. And the government makes it so difficult for, let's say, like a 20-year treasury bond, 20-year T-bond. which went down today, which is, it's a bad sign. When the market goes down, T-bonds should go up. But anyway, like, you can get one through Treasury Direct, but to try to redeem one early, there's virtually no way to do that through Treasury Direct. So, so these things, like, there should be, to try to get something of a reasonable return, even though like inflation is just beating you up. I'm saying like 4% or something like that. There's no chance. Or if you do it, you totally like have to give up your money, give up par for 20 years. So it's insane. But yeah. So forget UFOs. We have conspiracy claim birds are hoax. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not on the birds are hoax, but you could probably put a camera on some kind of mechanical bird today. It'd be pretty easy. Why wouldn't you just do drone, like a drone that's the size of a dragonfly or something? Like, I think that's been out for a while. Andrew, this is the bacon. Fun fact: about 80% of seagulls fly to Mono Lake near Leavenning, California. It's one of the saltiest lakes in the world. I didn't know that. My friend was walking out of his mother's apartment. My goodness. So this is from SAST. Annual bonus protection strategy. The board protects the board. Yes, of course. Right? Jim's saying he used to work at 1 Hour Photo. Got good at it. All switched to digital. Yeah. Man, I remember when I got my 35 millimeter camera when I was in college and how excited I was. We still have, quite a few of the pictures, right, taken back then and stuff like that. But then the first digital cameras kind of really sucked. It's like my oldest daughter, like when we had a digital camera, her pictures, like those just aren't as good. Like when she was a baby. Bacon and Jim. If it makes you feel better, I can mail the disposable camera I've had lying around. Yeah. Got it. I remember going to weddings and there was a thing, you guys probably remember this, to put disposable cameras on tables and then, take pictures throughout the wedding and just leave the cameras here and we'll get them developed. So, but back then, like, you really had to 35 millimeter camera, like, you'd be really careful how you used your film, right? You couldn't take 45 shots of something. And yeah. So it's strange. It's kind of strange. Like, I actually now don't take as many pictures as I did 3-4 years ago, maybe. When I'm up hiking, I like to take a few pictures, but I was out hiking last week. I took one picture when I was out hiking the whole time. And it was an very interesting picture. And I knew it, like, the moment that I was walking through this area. I'm like, I've got to get a picture of this. And let me bring it up. Oh, come on. Jeez. The computer needs to be updated. So this is the picture I took. No. Hang on. Okay. So I took this picture a week ago when I was out hiking. And I think this is an amazing photo. So this is outside of my town. Actually, this area is going to be developed into a subdivision. So if you go like back over here, there's already a couple cut-ins for homes, stuff like that. But so these things here look like cactuses. I don't know what these are. I mean, and this tree looks really kind of freaky and stuff like that. And this will kind of grow up, but yeah. So, and it's interesting because over here, at some point, this was cleared and all those big stones are over here. Almost like boulder size. So I don't know, like 100. You can kind of see some back here, but this is a really interesting image. I actually would submit this. Like I used to submit to the county fair photos stuff, but I think this is fascinating. It has a right balance, right? Because you clear blue sky. What in the world are these things? They look like skinny cactuses. This thing is really freaky tree over here, but then you got green here. So like as you look at this, your eyes just kind of move all around. But it is a really dystopian, weird type of photo. And these things weren't in any other place, like these tall cactusy things. Like they were only kind of in this area. So yeah, I like the photo. Like but I only took one. This is the only photo I took. It was like, says a week ago, I think it was like 65 degrees. And so it was like anyway, it's kind of a neat photo. Bigfoot. Whoa. Put a sign on that field. It says future location of mattress firm. Oh my goodness. My dad has his 50s and 60s Yashica. It's neat how it works. Or Yashica, okay. Or batteries plus. Yeah. I miss quality engineering. Everything is cheap electronics now. Yeah, I have no, absolutely right. I still have the toolbox from my great grandfather, which had all of the hand tools to like, the hand drill, like where you just, there's no electricity for it. And all of that stuff, which is really cool. And yeah, you're right that everything is just really cheap electronics right now. I miss when I was like in middle school, the video games, which would be handheld, like football and baseball, like there was quite a bit to those. And between electronics and mechanical and stuff like that. And now again, everything's just as cheap on a screen as an app. So yeah. Game stocks. Yes, man. I don't, the thing is like, it just is, it's really bad. So this isn't very far from, let me put up this other image to give you kind of an idea here. So when I get out to that area I was just at, I have to hike past these homes. All right. So actually where this yield sign is, you hike up the road and then it kind of gets you into this area where just trails and stuff like that. These are all really expensive homes. So I live kind of like back here. And then this is kind of weird that this has never developed. Like in winter, I'll hike out here. And this was all Native American. This was Winnebago Indian tribes had settled this. And that was all on the maps back in like 1800s. But yeah, there's some really huge homes. So where I'm at, like I have to walk like up this hill and then kind of come over here. But I wouldn't want where these homes are located because like this is really steep. This hill comes up and like if it's a snowing, like you go right into the front of this house and then plus the water and just, I don't know. I just think it's a kind of precarious location for these homes. So yeah, there's some really big places up here. But anyway, let me draw your attention to the background. So this is about 5 miles away from where I took that picture. It's about 5 miles out of town. See this complex? That is the power plant. And in 2018, it was rated the most efficient coal power plant in the United States. It had just undergone a $900 million upgrade renovation. And so this is, again, outside of my town. It's about 5 miles away. So just, you can get an idea, like where I'm standing at, it is at least 5 miles, maybe 6 miles away from when I took this picture. So it's huge. This has been officially decommissioned, or it will be. In 2025, they'll no longer be able to use this as part of the Green Energy Initiative. So when people were running for county board, this was the number one thing of like, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to make up? Because this is the power for not only my city of 10,000 people, but the city next to it and the city over here and part of the metro. I mean, this is a huge power plant. I mean, there are dedicated rail lines that come here from, Wyoming. And people are like, what's the deal? Like, it was just upgraded. Like, it is very efficient, but yeah, you can't have it. So, and I think my taxes will go up $800 when this is taken offline. People that live out here in this area, their taxes will double because of the subsidy by the plant. So this is really weird. You can't get anywhere near this right now too, and try to take pictures or stuff. It's just, stuff is really strange. But yeah, so this power plant is being, eliminated. And everyone's like, why? Like, what's the deal? So yeah, and we have big industrial park, it's, again, just for perspective, like that's 5-6 miles easily out there. So it's kind of freaky, the fact that, what is it going to mean for our community? This is Wisconsin. I mean, it's overcast. There's snow here 5 months of the year. And to think you're going to, if you go way over here, there's like windmills and things putting in some kind of solar, but is that going to replace this? And the fact that there was no say. They just got told it's shutting down from the EPA or whatever. So I don't know. It kind of freaks me out. I don't like that. There's no phase out. It's not only that, right? There's another part to this. It's not just like idle the plant. It's like idle it and destroy it. And you'll kind of see like that's happening a lot around the country right now. So, Doc is going to have a stalker that watches the show, try to find him while he's hiking or biking. I don't think you're going to, oh no, man. I don't think you're going to find me when I'm biking, because I take a lot of different routes. Yeah. And actually this hiking one, like I probably won't do that for a long time again, because this will start to grow up, and then there's different areas I would hike. So, but yeah. Then they ordered it torn down because of global. That's a thing, right, Jim? So you're right on with this. And that's the point that a lot of the people run for county representative were saying, like, it's one thing to shut it down, which seems a little weird too, but shut it down and completely destroy it. And that's the thing, right? So you can never use it again. It just is it's really strange. And I mean, out of 30 people running for county seats, this was like everybody's top topic. Like, why is this happening? Why do we have no say in this? Quick, everybody buy an EV, no electricity. Yeah, no kidding. And we are in a growing area. So, I mean, how do you replace this? And again, in 2018, this was rated the most efficient. This had won awards. It had just gone through a $900 million upgrade, and now they're sacking it. It's got to be gone. But it's fine for China and India to burn. Yeah, absurd. It is absurd, right? And actually, if somebody did an analysis of all these things burning in Ukraine and Russia with these attacks and how much CO2 and pollution that's putting in the air, right? I've never seen that, but I'm watching like these refineries or this iron burn or something like that, and all this smoke, and I'm like, what's the deal there? Or that is just being man-made. I just don't get it, but yeah. So yeah, for us, this was really an asset for the area too, and for property taxes, it subsidized substantially our property taxes and the people that lived out there. That was one of the selling points when we moved here. We didn't know about it, but the realtor made a big point about it. So, hello, Wisconsin, it's Media Hits. Hello, Media Hits. Environmentalism is just another big giant. Yeah, the thing is, and Sass, the thing that I don't understand on this is, right, in the year 2050, let's just say roughly 2050, not everything, but there are enough studies, right? There's enough research out there that says by the year 2050, we're probably going to have clean technology, right? Like if you're going to build a home, either through solar panels or through geothermal or whatever is going to be developed, or just like the technology is just going to advance where you're not going to be burning a lot of coal, or gas will be like outdated, or you're going to have a battery life, and we're easily, in the 20, 30 years from now, a vehicle or something could get 800 miles off of these. Technology would get you there. Like it's just happening. Like that there'll be this cross section where these technological advances will just happen. In robotics for a lot of things, like farming, like a robot will go out and weed, whatever. I don't know. So why, out of all of mankind, why do we have to go crazy to try to speed this up by 20 years when in 20, 30 years, it's naturally going to be there anyway? It's going to be more efficient to 3D print. It's going to be more efficient to have, some of these solar, geothermal, whatever technologies, different battery technologies, which will just kind of happen. Who knows? I mean, but they'll be there. Robotics, machine learning. So it's weird. Like that's going to happen. That will be there. But you're causing all of this disruption now to try to force it sooner, and it's a mistake, big mistake. So yeah, it is all agendas, and it's really it's pretty frightening. So it's the negative bias, right? Like, so I look at this, and to me, like this is a negative bias, right? I look at this, and I'm just expecting more bad news to come out about like our power source, so I'm kind of primed for that, and that's the way that it's been portrayed. So I just expect that we'll have more bad news about our energy reliability here, even though we have this fully functioning $900 million updates plant. And it's not only that, so the negative news then that I expect is the railroad, isn't going to have the travel on it. So who's funding the railroad and people moving to this area? And so, I'm just going to tune into those things. And I suppose you could say you're not going to have the pollution of this, although like it wasn't anything noticeable, like soot on homes, and I have kind of lighter colored siding. There wasn't anything like that. But I don't know. So, this is our good friend, Jim. Yep. Look at Southern Chicago area. It looks like a war zone. Yes. Yeah. How about all the diesel burned to float goods all over the world protected? Yeah, true, right? Completely true. He was saying there isn't much to understand. The people in power hate us. So, yeah, I never felt the way I do now about politics until the last 2-3 years, right? The people are not acting in your best interest, which I think is clearly communicated in the velocity of information. So what can you do and at least recognize this and try to maneuver in these environments when that's not happening? But I mean, like I said, I'm seeing it local. I'm seeing, it's very strong in the county and the municipalities saying, well, what's going on here? Like, why is this? Who made this decision? And why do we have no recourse? There were no hearings. And why can't we even go out there? Why is this place kind of sanctioned off now? So where's my flying car? No, stop flying us. Flying cars. Yeah. It's beyond stupid talk. So yeah. Again, give you guys a close up. So again, yeah, that's about 6 miles. Yeah, really good area, right? And it has access to the Wisconsin River flows by it, so it has access to cooling and stuff like that. It's very, very efficient. Again, like I said, award-winning in 2018 or 2019. It was the #1 efficient coal plant with all these scrubbers and all this stuff and it's just been shut 2025. So A new EV, this is Heath with 0 miles, has a carbon footprint of a petrol car with a 90,000. Yeah, right. How do you dispose of these things? What do you do in cold weather? Just so much with that. Bet it's a tax issue or bond issue, not in my backyard. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you though, the people where this is at, everybody there wants this. It's been there. There are actually very nice homes not far from this. It's so the people, and of course, when this power plant goes away in 2025, their taxes will double. So there's nobody here complaining about the power plant. It was completely an EPA decision. So yeah. You need to drive the EV for at least 100k miles before you break even. Scientists that aren't using science or common sense. Nope, you're right. I don't even know if they're scientists, right? They want to mass produce them. BMW scraps them if there is an issue in the battery. Cheaper to make a new one. Yeah. Doc, all you're mentioning proves these actions are a feature. Right. They are a feature. You're right, Andrew. Yeah, more smokestack scrubbers. So, and so like if you go out of town, you can start to see the windmill farms, but they're, again, that's not all it's cracked up to be, right? So, Jim McIntosh, humans have a hard time with this counting to 2D. Yeah, imagine the mess if we switch to 3D. Yeah, driving is 4D. Yeah. So, wow, 4D. So, I have a cool image. Let me bring this one up. Oh, come on. Jeez. Here we talk about negative. So this is something I shared on Twitter. I think this was yesterday, right? And over here on the right, so this is a 20-year Treasury note. Stock market's just been plummeting, right? So the Treasury note. So if you had $100, you could buy a Treasury note and you get 3.4%. And then twice a year, the government would pay you the 3.4%. After 20 years, they give you your $100 back. So 3.4 is very high, relatively speaking. The notes like in November were like 1.5 for a 20-year. So in the morning, it started at 3.4 at 7:32. At 9:22 is 3.429. By 2:02 yesterday, it was 3.447. That's a big jump. And basically what this chart is showing you, what is Uncle Sam willing to pay people, governments, financial institutions, whatever, to take these bonds to give the government money? And to have a jump from 3.405 to 3.447 in one trading as the market goes down like 1,000. So basically, when you watch this, the government is trying then to get you to give money as an individual, right? It's more corporations or other countries or stuff like that to buy these bonds. And then they go in and they buy through BlackRock and what other securities to try to balance out the stock market. So it's really telling to see this. So I was posting this and saying, as the market went down and down, there was more desperation to up the rates to try to get more money to come in on this side. And then bonds are used to buy securities. So, but today the market went down pretty significantly and the rates dropped, and that's a very bad sign. So when the rates are dropping, that means that other, usually institutions or countries, are flooding the market with their bonds. Every time you're trying to pay more, they're flooding and selling more out there. And so there's, but anyway, it's just really, it's like negative. So when I expect to, my negative bias is I'm expecting these rates will just continue to go up, which will indicate that there's more uncertainty in the government in the short term and long term, because again, this is a 20-year note, and that the stock market's going to fall. If this note gets like to I've said if this note gets to like 5%, which is very possible, then it's going to mean that the stock market will drop or be down significantly. Because if investors can get 5% on a note that is very secure, like the government would have to default, which could happen, but I mean, that's not a bad return. Because I mean, if you're in the market and you don't have to pay state and local taxes on a bond, so it's really more like if you could get 5%, it's probably like a percent higher, probably like 6%. So, like if you bought this for retirement, that's not a bad deal. Like a equivalent of a 6% bond. Not at all. So, I forgot it's the bond market's turn to crash. I already experienced some of that. So, this is all Treasury Direct. So the nice thing with Treasury Direct, even though it's a really crazy old interface, right? You're not paying anybody you're not paying a brokerage, and they're not taking a cutoff of 1.8% of your balance every quarter, something like that. The problem is with Treasury Direct is it's really difficult to redeem anything before it matures. So the interface is not set up for that. The system isn't set up. The structure of these Treasury notes. So there's a trade-off in that. But anyway, these are things I kind of pay attention to. I never did before. With same penalty, either severe injury, permanent, meat suit, loss. Yeah. No kidding. So, that's where, you can look at some of these things and be like, if you can just stay on the positive side of an investment, even if you're 3% up, right, in something versus this 20% down, it is so hard to recover, especially today when people are not holding stocks for the long term. It is so, and things are just becoming more frequent. The 2008 crash, the 2020 crash, 2022 crash, like it's very difficult to recover. And at the same time, fees are being taken away, your taxes on capital gains and dividends, stuff like that, where if you can just stay on the plus side of things. I was reading quite a bit in the Great Depression, right? If you could just stay on the plus side of your investments, like even if you're getting like 0.01% versus the person who was losing 25%, like how much better you're off, even though you had inflation and other things, like you still were keeping your principal, even though your principal was being eroded by inflation, versus like somebody who was losing principal and also having to deal with inflation. So that's where I'm at right now. But so I've been watching these treasuries just kind of take off, these treasury notes. And yeah, it's pretty wild. So gold and silver is down. Notice that right now. So swing trade, you bet. Gin to bacon. This is what we get making people learn to drive on Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. You can lose if you don't sell. Yeah, it's true, right? Sast is saying, and imagine right now, I mean, anybody who's locked into a 401k or retirement setup, right, where you have, it has to stay there, right? Or you're not old enough to do withdrawals or different, or do you sell your position, or what are options are even available to you to try to move into things? But if you're already down 20%, you move to a money market, maybe you'll avoid the other 20% down, but if it returns up, then you're buying in. So I mean, it's just a bad setup, man. It just is a bad deal. And not on a tractor, or at least lawn tractor. Jim is saying 3.527 20-year note is the point where you double your money at 20 years. So yeah. And Andrew, though, it pays twice a year, so it doesn't compound. So, but a plus is you're not paying state or local taxes. I don't have local taxes, but we do have pretty significant state taxes in Wisconsin. So, I believe 20-year notes are going to hit 5%. And then, then I think it's really, really an attractive option. Now, when they hit 5%, I mean, inflation could be pretty wild. But I mean, what other options do you really have? Right, goals. I mean, there are options out there, but I'm saying, like on a treasury note, if I can get 10-year above 4, if I can get a 20 above 5, I wouldn't tie up for 30. I don't think I'm going to be around 30 years. I really don't. But 10 and 20, if I could get a 10 above 4 and a 20 above 5, I think those would be very appealing to me. Yeah, they're trying to kill us. Yeah. I could tell you stories. Man, there are many stories I could tell, right? Couldn't tell them here, but there are stories I could tell. So yeah, very there's all campfire stories down the road. So I second that, Jim McIntosh. So I noticed that when the OK Boomer meme started being applied to Gen X, yeah. Well, all the attention's focused on boomers and millennials. No kidding. So, yeah, this whole thing to like, so right now the sentiment is just negative on the market. Like, and what would change it? Maybe midterm elections, maybe 2024, change in administration, I think could significantly change the sentiment on markets. So I would think, though, you're probably looking to 2024 because even if Ukraine, Russia, which could go on for a decade, right? I mean, you'd kind of know where things were at, right? Of what to expect in that. And so I would think 2024 would be your turning point, but it could also be a turning point for much worse, right? If you didn't have a change in administration, I mean, what do you do with these companies that would be forced to rapidly meet these carbon credits? What do you do with like a 3M and companies like that? I mean, like, where would you invest? Just across the board. I mean, as you look at a portfolio, I mean, it would be really crazy to do that. I mean, look at how Disney's just been destroyed recently. So let's take a look. So Disney stock. So let's take a look here. So Disney is down to 106. Let's take a year though. Disney's gone down 42% in the last year. And so it's at its low here. But in addition to that, Disney stopped paying its dividend during the pandemic. So this used to be a fairly stable dividend stock. So that's gone. And now you've lost 42% if you're a Disney person. I mean, so is Disney going to come back? Well, 166,000 employees worldwide? I don't think so. I don't. It is now, there's a political liability, the streaming services of Disney Plus. I don't think that's attractive. Look at how Netflix is getting killed. I think it's kind of moving beyond this stuff. To actually run and operate a park has a lot, in cost of employees and stuff like that, has a huge overhead to it. Air travel sucks. So the appeal of doing these things, I just don't think is going to be there. So Disney came out, and I thought this was crazy that they did this. I knew immediately when they did this that this was a bad sign. So right here. So let's take a look at this. So This was February 17th. Disney came out and said, we're going to build a planned community of condos, houses, and estates in California. See what it'll be. So it would actually be like Disney characters and all this. So this might seem familiar to some of you because Disney did this in Orlando, outside of Orlando, and it was called Celebration Village. I think it was back in the 90s. It was a big failure because a lot of the stuff was really shoddy and people just thought it'd be like living in Disney, and it wasn't, right? And this is kind of how they're passing this off of it'll be like living in Disney. It'll be like kind of character and themed and all of that. But the reality is how are you going to get the water for this? I mean, you're already having the water supply issues. This just politically, this would never fly in modern day California. It would never be approved. Everyone that would live here basically has to be a multimillionaire. You probably have like $3 million baseline just to be in this community. So Disney puts this out there in February when the stock is tanking and other political things are going on. And I looked at this and I said, just like when Biden was going out for, we're a big campaign against cancer. This is Disney trying to like throw people so they don't look at what's happening now and saying, oh, look, we'll be out here and generating revenue and all this in the future. And I'm like, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. This is just to disguise that, Disney is rapidly dying. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. The stock is down 40% and continues to plummet. And what's really the value? I mean, again, as people and as society becomes more dangerous, just in general, I mean, this is just not going to happen. So, like an entire generation simply doesn't exist. Jim, you're right on with that. May is a typical market crash. The old term sell in May and go away comes to mind. Yeah, SaaS, you're right. So, and we already hit that, right? Like it's already happening. So, I mean, what is the impetus to drive markets higher? I mean, I guess if there was a ceasefire or whatever in Ukraine and Russia, that would do some of it. But yet, the nightly news and things like that is saying plan for, and I see it in my preparation for my school administration classes, plan for stay-at-home orders and a new variant in fall and all of those things. Well, if this stuff happens, I mean, markets will be down another 20, 30%. And where's the new money coming into this too? Like, where's that? I don't see it. So, but Disney, go woke, go broke. Disney is curiously staying out of the what the Supreme Court is talking about right now, right? How about Moderna? No kidding, right? I mentioned on your tweet that the dividend cancel is more important. You did. You're right, Andrew. Yeah. When you suspend a dividend, and it's to be a dividend aristocrat, to like pay for 25 years uninterrupted. I don't know where Disney was at on that, but to be a company of Disney's size and to stop your dividend is a really bad sign. And as an investor, I would not buy a stock that did that. And for example, many stocks, Procter and Gamble, and 3M, and a lot of just your energy stocks, Con Ed, stuff like that, went through the last 3 years, whatever, and did not halt their dividend. So when you halt it, you're not paying at all. This is different from not increasing your dividend. You say, we're not paying a dividend anymore. We have to use that for cash reserves or to build up offset lost revenue. That's a bad sign. So in my opinion, right? I personally, would not invest in a company that had stopped its dividend. So again, degeneracy, and rooting every IP they own. intellectual property. Making copy pasta characters of people. Yeah. It was a bad sign when they arrested. I read something about that. I've talked to too many people now who have returned. Like, we were there in 2017, Disney Orlando, which I thought was an awesome experience. And it was, snowy and snowbanks here. I got down there, it was 80 degrees and really beautiful weather. And it's when they had the flower theme stuff. So all the characters done up in, flower, flowers, but it was really nice. And I thought, like, it was a perfect time to be down there. It was affordable, like gas was cheap. It was like pretty safe to travel across the country. Like, we just had a really good time. Things were running really well. But I've had friends who've come back who've been down there, and other people I know have been down there and just said, not the same experience. Nope, not at all. So, and I'm like, yeah. Disney still has number one streaming service number. Yeah, they do. Right. And so think of that, SAST. So they have that, and they are at 42% down for the year with the stock. So imagine if that takes a hit, as like Netflix and others have. So that's probably a bad thing for Disney, because I just think competitors are going to eat away at that. That's a very vulnerable area. Jim, remember Rogue kissing Wolverine? Whoa, what a power. You can't touch anyone without killing them. Rogue life sucks. So, Jim, Jim, I can't say on the air. It would be like, semi-pro, right? The announcers on there. Like, oh, can't do that. All right. Dissent is actually acting properly. So, yeah, it's fascinating to just observe what is happening in the state of Florida right now. Spam about fodder. Those water sucks in Florida. Water sucks. Great sulfur mine, though. So, Gatorade. That's why you got to do Gatorade in Florida. So, I remember when we were at in Disney and all the signs of, like, because they have the waterways and stuff like that, and they'd say, like, don't get too close because there's alligators and snakes. Like, so take pictures of that, because we don't really deal with that up here. Don't deal with alligators, snakes, but not the kind that can bite and kind of kill you. So, Andrew's saying, Normie's looking at Disney stock, be like, what could Putin do to this? Yeah. And so, like, you look at Disney. I mean, I look at some of these things, and structurally, like, that is some serious trouble. You're down 40%. So let's do this. So you're at $106. I have my calculator here. $106. So if you go up 40% plus 106, that takes you to 148. So if you go back up 40%, so that's the thing, right? You don't get back to where you were. You're less than that. Gosh. TOC. Take a look at this. 1 year to date, or 1 year. Okay, let's bring it up. So 1 year, you're down 42%, $106. Okay, so 42%. So you take 106 times 42%, and it brings you up to $148. But your high for the year was 187. So that's the thing. Like, you'd have to be up, instead of 40%, you'd have to come up to 0.7 times 107. So yeah, you'd have to have like a 70% return just to get back to where you were. So that's the thing, like in the stock market, right? When you wait a second here. When you're down in the stock market, right, it is really hard to recover. So, by the way, this is the updated wall of fame over here. So let me just put that up. It's pretty cool. So these are the two wall arts for my books. That's the audio book cover for Velocity of Information, which is done. It's already on Findaway Voices, but I can't distribute it until April 1st of 2023. So sounds great. 6 hours, 40 minutes. Ben Hawk, the actor, narrated it. School of Errors should be out in July. It's completely narrated, so that's the cover of that. So that's cool stuff. So let's go back to the chat. Princess Cruise Line's also garbage. Disney owned. So yeah, I guess we kind of see things for what they are, right? So I don't know if so it could be negative expectation bias, but I also think like for those of you, who follow this show, right? It's a truth bias. It's being able to look at things and say that's accurate or that's not, right? There's more to this. So I think there's a part in that. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like that we're going at this from a negative bias perspective. I think we're going at this from a truth perspective. But you can't get people that are totally locked in this negative perspective, right? People are convinced we're all going to be, every piece of news is going to lead them to, we're all going to be stay at home in the next year and stuff like that. And so I don't know. Like I said, I think there's a lot of really cool things, technology, 3D printing. We have so much information that's available to us. We have like podcast. If we use technology like GPS for hiking or things like that, but cruise ship hulls, aluminum, not good for cargo. So are cargo containers made of aluminum? No, there must be actual reasons for that. I don't know. So just watching the original, not the original, but the 1997 Titanic, right? With Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. And I hadn't watched it for a long time. And, it was on TV but I didn't realize like it wasn't nearly as good as I kind of remember it when it came out. Because like there's so many things when you watch it now, the dialogue between characters to like kind of tell you about the ship and there's things. So it's kind of like dumbing down the whole plot and the theme and all of this. I don't know. Anyway, like so that kind of sucked. Yes, Titanic. So, all right, let's do a recap here on negative vicarious rehearsal. No, that's not what the show's about. It's negative expectation bias. So we all have biases. We all anticipate. Experiences are shaped by our previous knowledge, our parents' views, people around us, how we get our media, right? Like how we inform ourselves. And that's why, again, in my book, The Velocity of Information, get your member check network, other people, what are you seeing? How are you perceiving this? Maybe I'm getting a bad take on this. And negative expectation bias, when people expect news, all news is bad news. And even if all news isn't going to be bad news. There's news out there which is either neutral or there's news out there which is positive, and they'll only just hone in on this bad news. It's damaging. If you get in that mode, it just drags people down. And right now we're kind of in that mode, right? Because if you watch any news, but if you watch ABC nightly news, NBC, whatever, you lead off and it's just bad story, bad story, bad story, bad story, bad story, bad story, bad story. All of his bad stories. And it just wears you down. And if you start to, surround yourself with people and you're just getting this bad information, bad take, negative. You can be objectives on things, right? Again, like what did say looking at the stock markets, right? I think in 2024 you could have a big swing in markets. If you're willing to hang around till then, right? There could be a significant swing into markets. And I do think, I think also like to be able to think, by 2050, how we could cross into, the way that technologies could help us, battery technology, and just so many things. I mean, like, just think of now. I mean, LED lights, how awesome it is to have LED lights. Like, I have LED lights in this office. Used to be fluorescent. They got replaced with LED light. I mean, just the fact that, they're cheaper and they last a long time. And we went through that quirky fluorescent tube, that swirly bulb thing that those always burned out, even though they're supposed to last 20 years. But we kind of got there, like with the LED lights. So, yeah. And let's put, in fact, the movers and shakers that were against the donation of the Federal Reserve were on the Titanic. Yeah, remember that. Isn't that the case? Maybe one slightly positive human interest story about 30 seconds from, that they do, right? It's so, and even like they'll say like with coming on the news and breaking things. I timed it out. I would watch and then I would time, and even like a breaking news bad story might get 30 seconds total. And people don't realize that. Like, they think it might get 3 minutes, but if you actually time it out, it might get 30 seconds. And some might get as few as like 8 seconds, right? Wildfires in whatever, Superior, Colorado, and the whole bit is 8 seconds. So be like, count this and whatever, and there would be 3 images, and then it's done. It's on to the next thing. So I think the media is toxic. So I just suggest getting out of that. I think Aaron Clary is would back that up too, but the whole mainstream thing. You can get on podcasts, you can talk to people in different areas. That's where I think like things like ham radio, stuff like that, be pretty cool. Your member check networks, what's really happening. But yeah. So recognize this. And if people are into this, they're getting out in the green space is a good thing. Teaching people how to set a goal for anything. It doesn't have to be, it could, you think of goal and people are always like, well, fitness or whatever. It can be any goal, whether they want to cook something, whether, something you're going to read, you're going to make a garden or a goal or whatever it is, a goal, to sit down and actually dissect. What do you want to accomplish? How are you going to measure it? What things are you going to do? How frequently are you going to measure it? What's your baseline? How will you measure change from baseline? If you don't get toward your goal, what can you change, right? Or do you set a different goal? Like, people just don't know this. And how long out are you going to measure it? A week, 2 weeks, right? So understanding, setting a goal, doing things. The more things you do too, this negative bias, the more things you do, the less likely you are to get stuck into this negative bias circle. Meaning, like, the more experiences that you have. So if you go out and you're doing new things, if you're hiking or biking or learning something or talking with people or whatever, these are all experiences, right? And the more that you have start to displace the negative ones. So that's something that was very prevalent when I was doing the research too, is that people who tended to have negative expectation bias were almost cocooned, right? They weren't getting out and talking with other people, or they were so into a routine, there was no disruption. So if they went shopping, like, they would never interact with anybody, or if they just would go to the post, like, there was no real interface where other people could interject, or that they could experience things that were outside of this, like, just means to do an activity. So that was very prevalent. But yeah, and I think this happens with people of all ages. And it's happening more with the younger people, where they just expect bad things. Oh, like this week we're gonna have to wear the mask again, or whatever. Or just yeah. So the goal in Ukraine was achieved. Well, so they don't care about menacing Jim. They're actively trying. And yeah, I'm trying to grasp what is all happening. Like, kind of a tactical wisdom, Joe Dolio, and future conflict, looking at that of what's authentically happening from people who are observing this, that are there, and deployments and all of that. And then, and I've been on a show and I kind of look at also like the messaging and the propaganda parts, and propaganda might seem negative, but propaganda again got us the national parks, stuff like that. But and I'm just like trying to make sense of this all. And it's really hard to look at the resources being put into to Ukraine right now as things are happening domestically, which are significant. I'm again the whole kind of negative bias, but with the potential Supreme Court overturning, right? Very probable, I would say, that we would have protests and possible riots again this summer, as we did in summer of 2020. So I'm kind of like, wow, what this recurring lending that's also happening over to Ukraine versus support for domestically with trying to get supply chain, so food and medicine. Again, we talked earlier about formula not being available. So it's bacon. They, right? Yeah, you're right. They. It's bacon. So we're all just production units on a multivariate database. Yeah, ultimately, Jim, one of the things I think the older I've gotten is I've come to the realization, I'm not, granted, I think there's a lot of terrific things, right? Professor of the year and things that I do, but I mean, it's ultimately, I'm a number, right? We're all a social security number in a database. And so, yeah, Disney stock down, news is always bad. So yeah, that's it. It's really, this is really a sentinel time for some of these companies. And I guess Disney would be one of them, right? But, look at Amazon, Google down 25%. Like, who would have thought this was possible, right? And what happens to restore these stocks? Or, there's like Sunbeam, or like when General Electric started to sink, like that never came back, and so what's really happening? Well, Doc is right. The media is an evil force. Yeah, I am so. And when I talk in the chapter about Juan Brown's Blanco Lirio channel, he continues to do just excellent work. Blanco Lirio. So let's bring it up over here. There it is, Blanco Lirio, 308,000 subscribers. So I don't know how many subs he had when I wrote about him, maybe 270 or something. So it's always a hard thing. Like you write, in the book I put how many subs, but now there's so many more. But yeah, so here he's talking about China Eastern Airlines, California drought 2021, and his different shows here. So yeah. All right. So if you have any ideas for shows or guests, or you want to be a guest or something, let me know. Like if you're saying, oh, I have Joe Rogan on, yeah, probably not going to happen. But what I am trying to do is to hit on themes that are in my book and do like a little reading, right? And so while it's still close to the release of the book. But I'm going to start shifting kind of away from this. I think I'm going to shift to maybe do a topic, or maybe like mix in a face validity show once in a while. I used to do those face validity Fridays, but I think I did have Joe Dolio on. Joe's really, he'd be great. Joe's swamped right now. I talked to them not too long ago, and so yeah. But yeah, Joe. So yeah, I want to think this out too, because I have some more topics I want to go through from the book, to kind of build up this almost playlist, right, of shows that have to do with topics from the book, including this one. But when I did my Face Validity Fridays, I like those a lot, and I think I might. But the problem was, like, it was screwing up it wasn't compatible with my schedule kind of long term. But I might like flip these around a little bit to do a face validity show. So Face Validity Fridays, for those of you who did that. So I maybe did like 7 or 8 of those shows where I would do this on Monday, and then on Fridays we would have like 4 headlines that I would go through, like from different sources, media sources. And then we would analyze the headline, and there were certain like tricks. There are certain ways we go through. Like if somebody's name was mentioned, it's likely to be more accurate than if it wasn't. And what is a low key, right? So, a low key was saying the pandemic is responsible for smash and grab crime increase in California. So you're blaming the low key, the pandemic, for that. It can't defend itself. It's a straw man. And is that true? Right. Versus, policies and prosecution laws, technology being able to organize crime, whatever. But so that was good. Like we would do that. Those are great shows. It took a lot to prepare those, but I kind of I want to go back to those and maybe just do like an every other, like we'd have a theme like this, but then like maybe show 183 would be face validity. And we would go there. Hey, it's our good friend, Joe from Old Humboldt Distilling Company. So, and he had some bottles, unfortunately, were damaged. And somebody put a post, don't think about the ones that were lost, think about the ones that were saved. I thought that should be a meme. So Heath, night to you. Thanks for being in here. So I have to keep checking that Humble library to see if they have a certain book in stock. I'm going to check right now. So let's see here. We're going to check. Checking. Okay. Well, here's the deal. Look at this. All right. So they have my first book. It's available too. So they don't have the second book. Huh. Interesting. And Lisa has the book I was going. So, you lost 12 in an industrial accident. We are sorry to hear that. I think you said it took 3 hours of cleanup also. And Lisa has the book that's going. Okay. So it's a big day. It's a big day. So there's been a lot of great response to the Velocity of Information. It's also been nominated for a Semantics and Nonfiction Award in New York. More on that over here. Let me bring it up. It's a big award. Yeah, it's a big award. But as far as a nonfiction work, let's bring it up over here. So this is the award that the book has been nominated for. And let's do it. It is the S.I. Hawakawa book prize, and I believe he was a senator, and then also actually was a professor at University of Wisconsin for a short time. Yeah, United States Senator from California, and an expert on traditional jazz. So, but I have been nominated for this award, which is general semantics, or basically the meaning of words. So as we go in here, essential, non-essential, things like that, Taurus. So that is exciting. They won't make a decision probably until September on that, but that is in the nonfiction world, that is a very significant national award. So to be nominated is a very good thing. So so Bulrush. It's going to be fun to have both of the books out there in audio. So asking for a friend. It's funny. It's all fun in games until Ro comes out and tells the truth that she was the entire case. Whoa. Yeah. I think we're in for a really just a contentious situation in society coming through this summer. So yeah. So the velocity of information is appearing in libraries across the world. It's interesting, like Germany and Britain, but also like in China, and which is fascinating because I can see some of the places it's at in my interface, and I'm like, who is the librarian in China who approved this book? Because like it isn't a book which it shades positionality, but I just like School of Air's never made it to any library that I'm aware of in China. It just seems like a strange book to have in a video of or not to have in a library in China. But so velocity of information is selling well, but people contact me and they'll email me, and the book is moving to them, right? Parts of it resonate, and it's kind of all over the place, whether it's essential, non-essential, or the propaganda, or chaos versus or crisis, and a force majeure versus a black swan. And people will email and they'll say, and they'll want to like email back and forth, or at some point I'll be like, do you just I can talk to you, like we can do that, because I'm not going to keep this big email dialogue going. But it is so amazing to talk to people, and they're always thankful. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you for talking about the book, and here's how, and then it's interesting to read, what else are you reading? Well, I'm reading like Plato's Republic. I mean, I'm like, holy smokes. Like, so, and we'll talk about the book, and then I'll usually say, if you like this, I don't know whatever other books you're reading, but like John Ronson, Malcolm Gladwell, Daniel Kahneman, like those are kind of similar to this book and kind of the way that I write. So, and usually like people don't know all of those, so I kind of will point them in the direction of some of those. But it's been really cool because, and I was just sharing with one of my friends tonight that School of Air is like definitely had an impact on people, and people would send me things. So like if acts of school violence and stuff like that, they would cut articles out of the newspaper and like send them to me in their areas. Is just people I think just want to be validated, right? Like I'd be on TV in their area, they'd be like, oh, like this guy gets it. Velocity of information is really hitting deep with some people, and I think it's really good. Like and there's again, it's such a big thing when if I give somebody a call, right, or and they'll say like, this is phenomenal, like this is the way that the book is making me think about things or whatever, and so it's been really cool. Like that response is different than it was in School of Air. It's like there were people that would kind of seek out some validation, but I think this is kind of an enlightening and it's also not people who want to try to counter or put me in a different, like, well, look at this. It's just like they appreciate what's been written. And and they want to say like thank you, for that. And it's kind of a strange thing, because I remember when I was doing my doctoral research, there was um there was what was it? My dissertation chair, right? I was writing about like people's studies and stuff, and he said, "Well, just like call this person. They're up at the University of Michigan or whatever, like, and ask them what they meant or their take on it." And then I start to do that. So this is a big thing. I think when people read parts of the book, or read the book, but then there's parts of it they want to kind of get the author take on, and I want to kind of keep that accessibility. So anyway, it's been really neat. Like, I've had some really great conversations. One of the one person I was talking to is an engineer in ceramic coatings and ceramic engineering, and was talking about, it was something with essential, non-essential, and but we were really, it was fascinating how that person had perceived in their industry the changes, right? And if you're deemed essential versus non-essential, and then even like going forward, and how that is even shaping the industry, right? And kind of sharing some things out with me, and I was like, whoa, like that's really fascinating stuff. So in the future, androgynous blobs will fight for Crayola non-toxic crayons for food. Could be, man. Gee, my coworker invented Captain Obvious. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. I worked with a lady who sang on the Oscar Mayer Wiener jingle, the original one. So yeah, they did a newspaper article about her and everything, like when she was a kid. So I worked with her. She was probably like 50. But so this is where I wish Taco Bell would come directly to my house. It's Ting Ting. Hey, Ting Ting. Welcome. I'm just wrapping this one up, by the way, but welcome. So welcome. Someday we'll be able to monetize the show. So I'm enjoying this podcast, though. Like, I enjoy putting these together. This will be out in a blog post, right? And yeah, I'll do a few more that'll be from the book, and then I'm going to switch over to oh yeah, so this was interesting. So one person was talking to me about the book, and they said to me, you seem to have like a lot of influence from Marshall McLuhan. And this book is from like the 60s. And Marshall McLuhan was this futurist who said, well, kind of was predicting internet things, but was saying stuff like, hey, clothing is just an extension of, or like a glove is an extension of like the hand, and like basically like how big aesthetics are in marketing, stuff like that. So and I said, I actually have the book to the left of me. I have it. And yeah, and I didn't write about that explicitly in Philosophy of Information, but he said, oh, the tones are really there. Like, you can really sense, like, it's kind of Marshall McLuhan stuff. I'm like, well, that's cool that you could see that, because like, yeah. So, wow, looks like Ting Ting is busy over there on Twitter. Family dining, American Greek. It wasn't great, but the prices were great. Kids Meals, 1/4 inch burger. Wow, that's good. Let's do an update here on the weather radar before we ooh, all right. Let me show you guys what's happening. All right, here's the weather radar. So I live in this general area. So this is bad. I don't know, it kind of depends where this will break, if this is going, but these are severe storms that have produced tornadoes up in this general area. So this is all humid air, which is so these will continue to be severe throughout the night as the humidity increases and the temperature is increasing. So yeah, I live close to Madison here, so these will rip through here. So we'll see what happens. I mean, these are moving slow, which will allow them to intensify also. But yeah, so there's been warnings coming out of these. I don't think it's gonna be anything like real bad. But yeah, I can kind of see what's coming our way. A lot of the pink, the more severe. So again, it's like 80 degrees and humid outside right now. And like yesterday, 60, a day before that 40. So suddenly we have this big humid, and then it's going to be, it was like 85 today, be like 90 tomorrow. So this is all feeling this. And tomorrow could be storms like kind of just throughout the day. But so the thing with storms that just sucks now is like ever since we had a tree fall on our house, June 2nd, 2020, I do not trust trees. And I had all these oaks and stuff cut back, like really trimmed farther back from our house, but still like once you go through that experience, like that changes your perception. So it's snowing here. Oh my God. I'd be sad if we had snow. That half-pound burgers, even double half-pound burger. Oh God. Oh man, I would love that. It snowed here in February 2021. So yeah. I mean, 2 weeks ago we had snow. So this is we went from 40 degrees all of last week, literally 40 degrees, to now 80 today, 85, 90 the next few days, then kind of back. Next week it'll get back into the upper 60s. But we do have this like 5-day stretch now, this like super heated, humid weather. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens tonight. I charge my anchor and jackery type stuff in case we would lose power. I don't think we will, but I need to come up with a little better system down here too for like a backup, like a generator or something like that. I've been thinking about that for a while. So yeah. But wait on Darren McCarty once, super chill guy. Hold on, well, yeah. Never switched my summer tires until the end of May. I only do all season, but so I'll put a lot of miles on. Washed both vehicles today. The SUV has all-wheel drive, and I do want to change out to like a higher traction tire and sacrifice some mileage on that, but I don't know. So spam buff hunter. In the last 20 years, there's always been at least 2 days of snow and ice. So since old Humble wasn't here, let me go back to this 40-second clip here of this big news from this week, and here it is.
Specialty of the year is Dr. David Harrison. David is a speech-language pathologist specializing in psycholinguistics. He's the author of The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times, and has been teaching in our educational leadership program for more than 15 years. Students in his superintendent's current and legal issues course share, Dr. Harrison is helpful, organized, and empathetic, with content knowledge that is off the charts. Students in this course also share that they consult with David as they navigate especially difficult situations in their own district. Thank you for sharing your talents with our students, David, and congratulations.
Hey, that guy got Professor of the Year after 18 years. So appreciate it. Appreciate being nominated by faculty and students, and it's a big accolade. I believe I instruct at a Touchstone University. I would say the Touchstone University, and it really does have gravitas to go over there, right, and to walk on campus of 1880s buildings which have been meticulously maintained in the campus, and There is a real sense of something that's special. So I greatly appreciate that. So big honor. That's going to be on the wall and back of me, the plaque here at some point. So I look, that photo was taken it was taken in August. So yeah, so less than a year ago. Yeah, that it was taken in August of 2021. So yeah, I've aged a lot since then, haven't I? In less than a year. Yeah, that was August of 2021. It was taken. So my brother has a Camaro with the 1LE star summer tires. Yep. Getting tired of washing my car. I get a $19 a month subscription to Auto Wash. It's really popular in Nashville because cars get so dirty. Yeah. I wash it. I did both by hand. I kind of like it when it's warm out, right? It's nice to be out in the sun, but that photo was taken in August of last year. So it's not even been a year. Holy smokes, what are you guys saying here? He's saying the doc has really hit has really aged, I guess. It's not a good sign. For you to say that. Oh my God, when was that? So yeah. Let's do it was April 25th of 2021. So April 25th, 2021, that photo was taken. So so I'm like, so you're like, oh my God, what happened? What happened to you in the last less than 1 year? So I need to. The thing is, I continue to have the significant computer issues. One of my memory cards is bad, so I get these breakpoint errors, and like, the system needs to be rebuilt. It needs to be upgraded to Windows 10. So I have a few things left on deck that I have to do, like consulting wise and stuff like that. And then the system has to go in. So we have a place in town, the guy's already, we've talked about it, but then he's going to do like the full analysis of it and then like do the full rebuild. So I've been living on borrowed time with this system. Honestly, like every day, like I'm not even sure it's going to kind of get there, but I still have a little bit of stuff I have to wrap up with the university. But yes, no, I definitely want to be on Old Humble Distilling Company as a guest, but I will be on with an upgraded machine with running Windows 10 and stable and all of that stuff. So, yeah. So yeah, the photo. Yep. So Sky, that's me less than a year ago. So what crazy year. Well, it's really got it. Trying to catch Travis now. Nice. Yeah, that photo turned out well. Didn't charge me for it either. So it's our local photographer. So I know him. He's a good guy. So yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Yuri Warren. I don't know. I saw a photo. So when I got done with my audiobook, the sound engineer, I said, can you grab a photo of me in the sound booth? Just as kind of a historic, little record here of me. What in the world here? This is weird. And he said, sure. Like I'll do that. And so here that is. And like I'm like, holy smokes, man, I look old. Like my hair as you see it, but my hair looks like all gray and washed out. And like, I mean, it's kind of a weird angle to take a photo and stuff, but I'm like, oh my God. But but as you see me now, like my hair is more dark, and it was just kind of a weird photo. But I looked at it, I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, Doc, you should use a stock photo of you from like yeah, no kidding. Well, I think that photo is, I think the one taken in August is very good. So like, I think this is a very good photo. Like that'll probably be the photo I will just continually use forever going forward. I think it's I like that photo. So yeah. Hey, it's Sast. Take care, buddy. I'm going to have to reorganize that office to make the pile of excuses fit. So yeah, I don't know. There's some updates that need to be done. This office was significantly updated last summer when the new flooring came in, and but I need to. This again, the custom build PC needs to be rebuilt. So, all right. See you later. I gotta wind this thing down here. So don't worry about it. Your hands. Well, thank you. You're silver. Whoa. Ting ting. Wow. Appreciate that. Are you saying like, do you know anyone who's actually said that to you, or are you just making kind of a general statement right here? So, wow. So, wow. That's a nice compliment. So, all right. A silver fox. So, yeah. And so, I mean, I don't dye my hair or anything. So, like, that generally was me in August. And, anyway, so wow. All right. Well, thank you, Ting Ting. So you've made my night. That's even more hardcore. At least my car was front wheel drive. So yes, I have my front wheel drive, which only I drive, my Buick LaCrosse from the day I got it. No one else has ever driven that car outside of a mechanic. And then we have our SUV, which my wife and daughter drive, which I've driven that car. I rarely drive that one. So that's the one that is with all of the all-wheel drive and all the bells and whistles and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And it's been very good, very reliable. I had I told you guys the wiper module didn't work on my car. It was under warranty, so they replaced it. It was really weird. Like you turn the wiper on, the stem there, nothing would happen. So I had to just go crazy with the Rain-X on the windshield. But I'm still not 100% confident with it. But outside of that, like everything's been fine. Yeah, Wisconsin, I know. Yeah, man, I'm with you. So we need more of this, more update here from Ting Ting. Like we're not getting enough. Like more elaboration on this. Open diff all season radio. So yeah, I'm kind of a Michelin tire guy. I think I really studied that pretty well to get like the amount of grit, like the sand or whatever that was in the compound to get traction. So anyway, I'm a big Michelin type of guy. So, but yeah, Jim McIntosh, hey, don't be too modest. All right. Well, Ting Ting is sent a nice compliment here, but then vanished. So all right. Let's check how many. I think we were up to 10 reviews on for velocity of information, which is good. And we're at 50, although I had somebody email, we're 10 and we're at 50 for school of errors. So somebody in the safety profession emailed me this morning and said they're going to post a review next week. So 51, and then velocity of information will start to get up. So I can't wait until the audiobook comes out for that. It's so well done. Yeah, I mean, as a professional actor who narrates the audiobook, it's just so good. Yeah, no kidding. I remember all of that stuff. So, well, everybody, I'm going to take us out the same way I took us in, kind of, but I'm going to have some different. Hey, it's Ting Ting right here. Dog in China being. So, all right. So, Ting Ting, I get. So, thank you. So, good piss man can think of. So, is anybody that you know, have they actually said that about the doc, or is Doc just kind of in that constellation? Am I in that profile? Or like, no, I actually know people. There's like a Reddit that's happening right now in China, and they're talking about you in the show, Doc. So, yeah. Oh, I drove a chick to treatment during an early blizzard about 7 years. Buick Regal. Yeah. I took my driver's test on a day when there was a blizzard. I was the last person allowed to take a test that day, and I did a 360 on a ramp, and the guy just passed me. He's like, "You handled it really well. Let's get the hell out of here and get back to the DOV or DOT." So it's crazy. Yeah, that's nuts. So, all right, I am. That sucks. 10 inches of snow on the ground. I'd really be sad. Like, I mean, it's not great to live in a cold weather state, but to live in a other one, yeah. So, that's funny. So, all right, let me take us out here, and let's see what we have here. Thank you, everybody. This has been the Safety Doc, and this blog post will be up tomorrow. So, yeah, I'll take you out here with a few commercials. If you want to check through some of these, here we go.
As chaos erupts, torrents of conflicting yet urgent messages gush from media outlets. What is the magnitude of the incident, and what should people do to protect themselves? Dr. David Perodin clarifies human behavior during days, weeks, months, or even years of chaos. Reporter James David Dixon of the Detroit News proclaims, "The velocity of information is an education in the way people react and adapt to change. Never has it been more important to sift facts and stories for truth and meaning. The velocity of information will teach you how people have done it in history, in the modern day, and even in prison. There are teachable moments on every page." Buy The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. Available from your favorite bookstore or online retailer. A must-read for parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Dr. David Perodin has written the most honest book about the $3 billion school safety industrial complex. Attorney James Sibley proclaims, "A brave demonstration of speaking truth to power. School of Errors rips the lid off the billion-dollar school safety industry." Using real-world examples of successful responses in desperate situations, David contrasts the expensive window dressings pitched to panic parents with the inexpensive and effective approaches proven to actually work. Read this book before you let your school waste another precious dollar on meaningless safety theater. Buy the international bestseller School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, now at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. As chaos erupts, torrents of conflicting yet urgent messages gush from media outlets. What is the magnitude of the incident, and what should people do to protect themselves? Dr. David P. Perodin teaches you how to prevent mental burnout by observing indicators and building a robust member check network. Reporter James David Dixon of the Detroit News proclaims, "The velocity of information will empower its readers." Drawing on current events, history, interviews, and scholarship, the velocity of information is an education in the way people react and adapt to change in this fast-spinning world. Never has it been more important to sift facts and stories for truth and meaning. There are teachable moments on every page. By the velocity of information, human thinking.
Hi, everybody. This is the Safety Doc with a face validity check-in here on March 31st, 2020. Bellevue, Washington has started a tool to report stay-home violations. This is from the government website in Bellevue, Washington. So we're going to scroll down here to My Bellevue portal and then to report gatherings. They've made it convenient. There's a map on the right. You can drag a location over here into address, write a description, and then also include photos. This is a practice we've seen in some areas of the country, but it's going to be more prevalent. Look for it in your area, probably in the next week or two. Describe the odor. Is it like when something electrical is burning? And so on. Ridiculous, right? We don't shift the investigation to the reporter, but that's covertly what the school district thought needed to happen to prevent their investigation scrambling principals from burning out. And as this paragraph smolders, it would be prudent to consider bringing students with disabilities from the sidelines of safety and center them to active roles of detecting and reporting threats. So we had a rather difficult meeting. Upon due diligence of examining the reporting system, I informed the district representative that I could not justify modifications to the existing model, as such changes would make the system less accessible to students. Well, that was a short chit-chat. The district folks believed, or hoped, that the threat input system could be modified and maintained with fidelity. I wasn't in alignment with that hypothesis, and so I was thanked and given notice that our partnership would be over at month's end. Business is business. But in school safety, it's never as simple as that.